Bowl team and now these haters salty. Rockin' Zenny shades to the championship ship. That Nick Bosa drop him hard like a hit stick. The Jimmy Ward intercept him with a big six. Like Debo, we gon' knock him like a brick. The Trey Lance play action to a drop back. When the blitz coming quick, the old line gon' block that. RPO with Kyle Hughes, Juice, Mitchell and George Kittle, can't nobody stop that. Stand behind Kyle Shanny all the way. It's like a game of chess when he called a play. Brendan Ayuk on the center fade. Bang bang, Niner gang all day. I'm talking big body tramp.
All right. Videos courtesy of NFL.com. What's up, everybody? Welcome to IE Sports Radio. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Alston, who is on vacation, Maddie B, and your girl Bex. We are the East Coast Red and Gold. And of course, we have special guests Beto of Niner Sickness Podcast and Brian Culp. What's going on, everybody?
Hey!
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, no
Welcome,
problem.
guys.
Welcome to the show.
Or having me back, I should say. Thank you.
All right. So first and foremost, Bryant, how's the new edition?
Oh, he's getting bigger. He's very vocal. He's got a whole head of hair. He's got probably more hair than any of my other kids, and it's just a blessing. We didn't think we were gonna have the second one, and now the third one after the first one. So we were just very, very blessed. There's a 10-year gap between my kids. Lily, she's 12, and I got Holly, and she's great. She's 2, and now I got Murphy. Hashtag future 49er kicker one day, right?
Definitely. He definitely needs to go out for the position. That's for sure.
Congrats.
All right. So let's get right into it. Beto, I'm going to start with you. How did you become a 49ers fan?
Oh my goodness, you're taking me way back. My whole family is Raider fans, and they're really hardcore Raider fans. And I never been one that like to follow people. I always kind of go astray and do my own thing, opposite of the current, if you will. And they were trying to get me into football, and I wasn't really into football. And I'm like, I don't want to do football. I don't care about football. Oh, you gotta, the Raiders and this and that. So I told myself, you know what? You want me to be a football fan? Fine. I'm going to do something you guys don't like. So I figured, okay, what team do the Raider fans hate a lot? And found out there was the Niners. And this was prior to Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. They weren't there yet when I chose to be a Niner fan. So I'm like, all right, let me check out this Niner team out. And DeBerg was quarterback. They weren't doing too great. They were okay. They had a carousel of coaches at the time, and I just chose the Niners because of to spite my family for bugging me so much about football. And then I started watching football. And then Bill Walsh got hired from Stanford, and then Joe Montana got drafted in the 3rd round from Notre Dame, and the rest was history. They started adding, Clark, and they started adding. I always loved Freddie Solomon and and all these players, and I just started to fall in love with the Niners, and they started to play great football, and just kind of took off from there. And then my team was always doing better than their team, so it was fun, and then it just made family reunions much funner because it's like I walk into a house and literally 90% of the people there were Raider fans, and here I am with the Niners, but yet they couldn't say much because my team was a better team from top to bottom, still is from top to bottom. And then I started watching it, but my very first game that I got to watch in person, because remember, my family would not take me to a Niner game unless they were playing the Raiders. So my first game that I got invited to was to the NFC Championship against the Dallas Cowboys. So I got to watch the catch from Dwight Clark in person. I was on the opposite side of Candlestick, but that was my first experience in person, and just fell in love with it and kept going forward. And I have no regrets, even though I have a lot of headaches, ups and downs, but no regret. I got to enjoy 5 Super Bowls and five parades in San Francisco, and all those I can, I will never trade that for anything in the world, that experience. But that's how I became a Niner fan. Just trying to spite my family with trying to convince me to like football when I was more into boxing and stuff like that and MMA. And they're like, football, football. I'm like, fine, then I'll pick a team you don't like. So I'm glad I went with the Niners.
I can feel that. Most of my family was Cowboys fans, so that's the reason I became a 49ers fan.
wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, because that was
Yeah,
before the Patriots are good, so nobody would claim them.
Correct.
So they were like, oh, America's team, that's got to be us. So also, I didn't like the Giants. There were a lot of Giants fans up here because before the Patriots, the Giants were the local team for the NFL.
Okay.
There was a renaissance with the Patriots, though, in the 80s, though. Wasn't there a
It
good
was
run?
like but there was like that one year that they lucked their way into the Super Bowl, and then like literally on their first play after Walter Payton fumbled, their tight end tore his ACL, and everybody was just like, and then on the next play, their all-pro wide receiver dropped a touchdown pass in the end zone, and then that was it. Like the route was on at that point. You know how there's points in a football game, no matter where they are, that all hell just broke loose, right?
Mhm.
And it never reined back in. Like when Brock Purdy tore his elbow, and then right after that, Josh Johnson got the concussion, or there were various
Maddie,
games.
it might be a little too soon for that. Come on now.
There are various games that we can all go back to and just be like, oh, I cannot believe that when this happened. But that game, that Super Bowl, that bowl was like right after, the only chance that team had to win was to like, and they didn't. They literally just like they got shot twice, like right on the field. It's like, nope, okay, we're done. That's it. I mean, they stopped the game for like 15 minutes to cart him off. Like it was super deflating, man. Super deflating. It's the 88 Super Bowl was like that. Tim Krumrie got hurt from the Bengals.
The Tim Krumrie thing. They kept showing that leg flailing
over and over again. I'm like, stop it.
You gotta love the media, right?
So I was in my
goodness.
that's when I got cut. I was telling you guys about that Super Bowl when I was watching in Pittsburgh with my roommate and her whole family. They're all cheering for the Bengals. I'm the only one wanting the 49ers. And when we scored at the end of the game, I went, yes. I hit the metal railing in the drop ceiling, sliced my finger open, blood is pouring down. I wrapped it in my t-shirt and I'm jumping around. Her name is Carol. Mom was Carol. Carol's like, oh my God, let me see your hand. I'm like, Carol, I know you're a nurse, but I'm going to be fine. I'm not going to die right now. Let me live.
I really bleed red and gold.
I don't care if I have blood in my shirt. It's red anyway.
The other thing in that game too, Steve Wallace tore his knee up in
Yes.
that game. So there were
Big
2
sexy.
points in that game where they stopped everything and brought the cart out on the field.
Yeah.
You're like,
Well, Steve Wallace got
right?
hurt
Like-
first. Remember, we fought bad, and then they lost their
And
guy.
they lost Krumrie, and they just kept showing his leg flopping in slow motion. And I was like, can we please not do that anymore? Like,
Enough.
no.
Yes, thank you.
And
Oh,
to
it
be
was
honest with you,
crazy.
them losing him for the Bengals, which I think it was a bigger, huge loss for
Changed
them
the whole
than
game
Wallace
for 'em.
was for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when they couldn't get that pressure up the middle at that time frame.
Right.
If they're how many Super Bowls have we seen lost on multiple sides
Yep.
because the interior pressure gets into the face of the quarterback?
Yep.
It happens all the time. It's probably why this Hargrave signing is so exciting to me, right?
Yes.
It was like how when they restructured that defensive line in 94, they went and got Bryant Young after they had added 94. We don't say his name in public
No, we
because
don't.
of the things he did after. But the year before, him and Ted Washington actually did a pretty good job on that defense.
I love that guy.
And then remember he broke his leg in the 90 NFC title game. Like Emmitt Smith was just a monster in that game. Like his shoulder blade was broken. He broke, and then Eric Williams blocked Ted Washington's leg into the ground, and he broke his tibia. Like, and that was a point. That's the point in that game where everything went to hell in a handbasket. Because on the next play, Emmitt Smith went into the end zone untouched. How does Emmitt Smith go into the end zone untouched? You know they're going to give the ball to Emmitt Smith. There's no other thing to do. Then if they'd even come like just hung around a little closer in that game, Troy Aikman gets hurt. They got a chance to win. Instead, Alvin Harper bites him in the ass again. So they went in the next year. They gutted the defense, and they went out and won a Super Bowl. And we haven't seen one since.
To talk about games like that, I remember that game against the Falcons when we
I knew the
lost. The
candlestick
very
story.
first place we got, Garrison Hurst went down. Very first play. Talk about
What is this?
Wind out of the sails right
I've
there,
forgotten
right?
about that. That Atlanta team was terrible.
yep.
They had they just rode this easy schedule, and like all the crap broke their way right up until the time their NFL Man of the Year got busted for prostitution during the Super Bowl week. Everything else went super swimmingly up until that point for them. Like Gary Anderson misses his only field goal in the NFC title game because that Minnesota team, I saw them in Vanderbilt against the Oilers when Randy Moss was just catching everything that year. They were a machine, just a machine. Like they were the St. Louis Rams before they were the St. Louis Rams. They were the original greatest show on turf.
So
Yes.
shout out Randy Moss. He's from my hometown.
I still remember that when he took his pants down, or acted like he took his pants down in Minnesota, or not Minnesota, but in Green Bay. That
too.
was hilarious.
That was disgusting. Get over yourself, Joe Buck. Go away.
Joe Buck.
Stop it.
Oh
Stop
my
it.
God, Joe Buck.
I have some like non-family
Can't
friendly
stand Joe
names
Buck.
for Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I'll share them after the show.
Do you just swap out F's for the beginning of their name, or
Well, for Joe
you
Buck,
could.
yeah, but then Troy Aikman becomes some A double S.
Which we will find out after the show.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Stay tuned for ECRG overtime.
Yeah. After dark. Hot takes.
Oh, wow.
We're
Okay.
full of those tonight.
Beto, I have a question for you before we get to Brian. How was the atmosphere for the catch game?
Oh my goodness. Wanting to win a game, always coming so close every, and the team was at that point was, getting better. That was at the moment where it started to define who the team was. We had to get over the hump, and who was that hump? Was the Dallas Cowboys. So when that catch, because everything was on the line. Everything was on the line at that play, and everybody's kind of like, one of those moments where you're holding on to your breath, and you're like, and as soon as that caught, everyone was relieved. Some people passed out that I remember, but after the game, they literally knocked down the goalpost on the north side because everybody was jumping on it and hanging from it. It was just everybody went berserk. Talk about different emotions just flared out after that game because it was going to be our first Super Bowl ever. Prior to that, we have been to a Super Bowl. So it was different emotions. I was kind of like excited, numb. It was in 82, 81, 80. It
was in January of 82, but it was the 81 season.
Of 81 season. So I was 12 that year. So I wasn't that old, but I wasn't that young either. So I was just kind of star-struck anyway with Joe Montana and all the players and watching them play and, playing against what people call America's team. And, it was exciting. But I was just caught up at 12 years old watching everybody just go crazy. Ladies that are in their 80s jumping up and down like if they were 16-year-olds. I couldn't explain. It's one of those moments that you have to kind of experience it for yourself. But it just erupted. Imagine being at a Walmart or Target and the owner says, for the next 5 minutes, anything you can put in the basket is free. And everybody just erupting. That's as close I can get to what that part felt when the catch was made.
Be in West Virginia when the Mountaineers win.
There you
The
go.
Yeah, the
goalposts
Major
come down,
Harris
we burn
era,
furniture.
Hip snuggle. Oh yeah.
There you
I'm
go.
telling you what, I went to WVU in the perfect season year, and we burned more. I can't tell you the crap we burned and how many goalposts came down and all the nonsense.
When you talk about those 70s teams, it's crazy because if you look at the beginning of that era, The 49ers weren't bad. Nolan was the head coach. They were going to the playoffs each year, sometimes even the NFC title game, and they would lose in more heartbreaking fashion to the Cowboys every single year.
Yes.
Every year that I go back and watch all those old Super Bowl highlights, they show the highlights of Super Bowl V, and they show the Colts and the Cowboys, and it's like one of the top 5 worst Super Bowls of all time. Even though there's like a late field goal, it's the worst played Super Bowl ever. There was like 400 turnovers. It was just an utter disaster. It was just not a good game. And you go back to it, it's like, yep, well, if the Cowboys hadn't beaten the 49ers, the 49ers would have been there, and then it would have been a much better Super Bowl, right? But those 3 losses basically sent the 49ers into a freaking tailspin, and then the franchise gets sold, and they're not in the playoffs for years. Like, after they lost in the playoffs in that game where they gave up 2 touchdowns in like a minute 20 or some stupid thing to Roger Staubach, like, that was it. They didn't make the playoffs again until 81. And then in 79, was that the year that they went 2-14? But 79 they hired Bill Walsh, yes. But I think it was 79 that they went 2-14.
Yes.
But they tore down the goalposts in a win because they were just excited that they
They're
won.
excited to win.
Right.
Kind of like what the Browns did when they went 0-6 season. They, although they didn't win no games, but they got all excited. Their team
Look,
looked
if you're
promising.
going to suck, you might as well suck as bad as possible. And if there's one thing Cleveland is good at as a whole, it's
they
sucking,
own that shit.
right?
Yep.
They are good, right? They
Yep.
are
loyal.
pros. And what's
The best
crazy
at
is,
owning it.
and if you go back even further, that was the model franchise of the NFL in the late
Way
50s to the early 60s.
Yep.
Like, before the Super Bowl era, like, you strive to be as good as Cleveland.
Yep.
I mean, and now since then, like, you'd think they were like Detroit, right? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
It's craziness.
It took Cleveland to move to Baltimore and change their name to win their first Super Bowl.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like,
And play a horrifically overrated Giants team because, once again, the superior, talented Vikings team died in the NFC title game for no apparent reason, other than they just did. Like, there was no business of that team losing that badly. None. Absolutely none. Those Giants teams were that Giants team specifically.
I'm telling you.
That was another top 5 terrible Super Bowl. That one. Oof, that was bad.
Yeah, it was all defense. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't even fun defense. It was like, bleh, right? Like, who did you root for in the Ravens? They were the most unlikable team. And they won because in the NFC title game, Rich Gannon got hurt. This is another time where there should have been multiple quarterbacks to swap through. Like, this is not, we've lived through a lot of title games where people get hurt, whether it was Jay Cutler against the Packers in previous years, Rich Gannon when he was with the Raiders, and look at the results that it causes, right? Like, nobody wants to see this other stuff happen.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Sheesh.
Yeah, you want the best team to win. And unfortunately, when you don't have, we experienced it in Philly, when you don't have the ability to carry or pull up another quarterback, it's a horrible result at the end.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind losing to the Philadelphia Eagles if we could have played out the whole 4 quarters with our quarterback and they just straight up beat us.
Right.
Then it's easier to swallow. But
I even would have settled for Josh Johnson during that time frame, right? Like, honestly, like, because at least you knew that he could have thrown the ball maybe a couple of times, right? Once he was out of the game, you knew that was it. There was no.
He was too busy trying to run away. He was scared.
Oh, he was. Yeah,
he was.
He saw that he was scared, but he was not going to throw.
He did not look prepared. It was like he was. It was like, hey, how much work did you put in this week? Surprise! None.
He almost kind of looked like, okay, my number's never going to be called.
It was deer in the headlight.
100%.
Yeah,
100% of that. Like
100%, because it's weird because he's had some really good games.
A seasoned veteran, a journeyman who's been around, seen a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
he did not act like it in any way.
Something, but yeah.
That's why I don't understand. If you're a football player, or if you're a professional athlete at any sport, or even a gas station attendant, right? Aren't you supposed to be like ready for all situations?
Right.
like
Mhm.
I know people say gas station situation, right? Okay, well, if you get robbed, you're supposed to know what happens and what you're
What to
supposed
do.
to do. Are you shutting down the store? Are you calling the manager? What do you have to do? So you're the backup quarterback, right? And this is the NFC Championship. This is the highest part of your career, even though you didn't
Yeah.
get there. This is the biggest moment for your position ever, and you are the backup quarterback. You have an ability, a chance, a slight chance to get into the game, and you're not ready. And then when you do get in, I mean, come on. I mean,
Yeah.
I think every one of us here. I'm not saying he didn't go out there and try, but I don't think he had it in the game. I think there is a lot to be said about possibly Jimmy coming into the game, not coming into the game. I don't think. I really can't tell you why, other than Josh Johnson being his friend, Kyle Shanahan's friend, why he got to the Niners. Why did we sign him? It can't be all about the money. We can finagle things. We can pay people other ways. Philip Rivers, Big Ben, Cam Newton. I mean, if we wanted somebody to, not jump on the fumble, we could have got Cam Newton, right? So I mean, like,
If you wanted to run on every play, wouldn't Cam Newton be the perfect quarterback for that?
he can fall forward and get the first down. I mean, he's that tall, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
to me, like, Cam was playing for almost nothing in New England. Like, it's not like he wasn't OBJing them. He wasn't like that. Would have been great, man. Just having Cam.
now
Just
an adjective.
I mean, think about it. They basically could have been. It would have been like that game in 2009 where the Dolphins went into Foxborough and just ran Wildcat and like beat the Patriots' ass. Like, it would have been like that. Like, it would have been amazing.
It almost
would have been
seems like
amazing,
Kyle-
and we would have been talking about what a genius Kyle is, right? Instead, we've got Josh Johnson, who looked like he went to the Jamarcus Russell School of not watching tape. So,
it's almost like Kyle Shanahan doesn't want a quarterback that is going to go against what you want him to do. He wants the yes man's type of quarterbacks,
and that's totally fine, and you would do that, but for like, I don't know, like it would have been nice if they'd just been like, yeah, we'll keep one in reserve as a back. Like,
I mean,
keep him off
anybody
the
than
street.
Josh Johnson.
Yeah, like what? I just don't understand. Like, there was no. Like I said, it looked like there was no preparation. It was like he pop quizzed him, and he's like, "Oh no,
Mhm.
man, I was on the road for 36 hours. I didn't actually study. Can I retake this? No,
So
you can't."
Probably party the night
This is
before.
another point. This is a point that I made, and I think other people's made it too. Like, why aren't they getting enough practice? Why aren't they getting practice time with the first? And like the second string guy comes in and he gets some reps. Why aren't they getting this practice time? I'm a big advocate of seeing like more preseason games, because I would like to see like fans be able to get their maybe affordable games and get to see like a game that doesn't matter, but they're going to get to see a bunch of players out there that are trying.
I don't. I'd rather get more regular games than preseason games.
I'm only good with preseason games if you expand the rosters to like 120, right? Or you let them keep the you keep the rosters at 120 and stop with this stupid cut down. We're gonna cut down the roster from this to this to this to this to this, right? Treat the preseason like it's minor leagues.
The idea is
there's
practice
no
time, right? So how are you getting practice time? And they say, oh, you're not getting enough practice.
You got to
time.
get reps.
Right,
So-
but at the same time, look at Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
So it's a sink or swim league, but most of these guys
So,
sink
I
or
was going to
swim,
go there too, Jess. Like,
right?
Brock
Like,
did okay.
it's craziness, right? Like, somebody like that. But guess what? Brock played college quarterback at a pretty high level, right?
Okay,
Like,
but so did the rest of these guys. They played
Right.
in their
And
position.
some of
When
them,
you get into the
some of
NFL,
them, some of them didn't. Some of them though didn't. Like, they played college football for a year, right? A year or two, a year and a half. That 2020 year was weird. Purdy was there for 4 years. There was really like, he was there for a while. It's just that doesn't happen.
Now this huge exception to the rule, where when he got picked, everybody's like, why are we picking a quarterback right now? Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, he was the outlier.
Draft capital on a first round draft guy, and he turns out to be amazing. But these guys they have their experience, they have their play time, and they get what they get. You have to take that and be able to parlay that into something better. And so Josh Johnson has been around the league for 100 years. He's played on 1,000 teams. He's seen 100 playbooks. He's a journeyman who's seen it all, literally, and should have been able to walk in and go, okay, they're playing this scheme. I know this well because I've seen it 1,000 times. How can he not walk into a game and look at something after, 14, 17 years in the league and go, I know exactly what this looks like. I've seen it. I've played against it. I've practiced against it. I've done all these things. And he looked like he was scared of, I don't know, my dog that I don't even have.
Deer
running
in a
in my
headlight.
yard.
Yeah.
My dog's barking at you and it doesn't even exist.
I can think of multiple big games. I think of that 93 NFC title game. Troy Aikman gets hurt, Brony Kosar comes in. I think of that Pittsburgh New England AFC title game where Tom Brady gets hurt and Drew Bledsoe comes in, which was a flip because Brady had come in for Bledsoe earlier that year and he ended up getting his job back and it was all fine. But the whole thing that week was when Brady hurt his ankle, there was only 1 week between the Super Bowl. They're like, oh, well, Monday and Tuesday, who's going to start? Bledsoe Brady, Bledsoe Brady, Bledsoe Brady. Like that was actually like a thing because Bledsoe played so well in that game. And there are other situations, but there are other situations where these guys come in and completely can't play. I remember when the Cowboys would start Jason Garrett, you'd think you'd have a chance. And surprise, Jason Garrett would drop 40 on you or 38 on you on Thanksgiving. What? Like Brett Favre can't beat Jason Garrett? Are you kidding me? But these, they did what they were supposed to do. They came in and they backed up. I was just thoroughly unimpressed. Like, I can't believe somebody that veteran would play that poorly in that situation unless they put forth little to no effort. And maybe there was some, stuff going on in life. That happens, right? He's human.
And that
there could have been things going on out there. So, like, that's not a thing. It's just a plain fact that was just not. I feel like we would have been. I feel we would have been better with Brian Hoyer in that situation than Josh Johnson.
Well, that's just a
right?
testament how much Josh Johnson doesn't practice or doesn't really appreciate the game and really take it seriously because he was probably, I'm just a backup, whatever. I'm getting paid to sit on the bench.
I'm way down on the bench. I'm not gonna I'm gonna collect my paycheck, and I feel like he was the guy who's already checked out at that point. Like, there's no chance of me ever starting in this game. Why am I going to invest energy and time and emotion and any of that? And I think that's exactly where he was. And when the moment came, he had nothing to give because he didn't put anything into it. And that's how I felt about it.
And a lot of these guys now don't. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt. I'll just be quiet.
I was just gonna say these guys don't have anything to do. They're not like they used to. Backup kickers, quarterbacks used to be holders. They used to do something to get them in the game. What are they doing now?
Yeah,
sending signs. Like what's happening?
Yep.
I'll get back to that point in a minute, Randy. Go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead,
Just
Batman.
back to my point. Like, why aren't they practicing more? When I seen the training camps here in Stockton back in '98 and stuff like that, they had 3 different practices during the day. So okay, you guys don't agree that we need more preseason games. I would like to see that because I would like to see more players on the field getting evaluated during a real game, not a practice with another team where both coaches know each other, or not a scrimmage. I want to see a real preseason game. And sure, it doesn't have to be a super expensive. That's my point, right? But why aren't you going ahead and getting practice? Why aren't these guys? When Josh Johnson walked onto the field, he looked like he hadn't taken a snap all season, not like at all. So there was like, okay, we got Jimmy. Josh Johnson knows the playbook, so we're good, right? No, he needs to get reps. He has to have reps. So again, you want to have 120 roster, or you want to have a bigger roster. I'm totally agreeing that, but they got to practice, and that's the only way these guys are going to get reps. Trey Lance, he's got incredible talent, right? But he only had so many reps in college. He only had so many reps in high school. He wasn't that quarterback that we think is. We know better now, right? So you go and draft somebody like Brock Purdy, who came in, who's played 4 years in college because that's what he did. He took those reps. He went the whole distance because maybe he didn't have the athleticism or the explosiveness, but he had the brain. And I'm not saying Trey doesn't have the brain, but he, over a period of time, has gotten experience. And why? Because he got the reps. Preseason game,
like a video game.
Whatever.
Yeah, but
you don't beat Mario the first time you play it, right?
Well, muscle memory. It matters. Yeah.
He's got to go through Mario, right? He's gonna dodge those flaming sticks of fire, right? He's gonna watch the dragon. He's gonna watch the spiky Ninja Turtles, right? Like throwing nunchucks. You got to watch all that stuff because you don't know what's going to get you. But if you don't use your thumbs and go through it, so be it. He hasn't been able to use his thumbs. I really like what you're saying, Bryant, about the whole thing. And this kind of goes back to what I was trying to loop to. Like player development, there is no player development. In college, like they can recruit as many players as they want, depending on the school, right? You only have so many scholarship slots, but you can have walk-ons, you can have all sorts of stuff. And I see it a lot of times. And I saw somebody in the chat who said they went to college with Joe Flacco. I see a lot of people at that level. They'll recruit local kids and they'll redshirt them for a year and just basically put them in the weight room and put them in the nutrition and put them on the practice field and see if their bodies can handle it. If their bodies handle it, then they play at the next level. A lot of these guys that get recruited in state, their bodies cannot handle it. They just cannot. They can't make the transition from playing high school to major college ball. It's a big jump, especially if you're not going to some prep school or something like that, right? Like if you're not going up against the ultimate, you're probably going to have to redshirt your first year. And if you don't, you may get hurt, right? You get your quads and all this other stuff. And then these guys, they get hurt and they don't come back because they don't ever get another shot, right? You got guys that toil in the minor leagues of baseball. But what you hope is either the USFL, the XFL, I don't care what happens. There needs to be some sort of spring league where some of these guys on this 120-man roster need to be playing. They need to be playing just like they had the whatever they call it now, the D League, the G League, whatever they call it now for the NBA, right?
Mhm.
You need something like that so that these guys that haven't gotten those reps, right? The guys that don't have that muscle memory, the guys that got hurt a couple years ago can come in and learn systems. And if you have each one of these pro teams has a minor league team somewhere in the area, right? Say San Jose, Sacramento, someplace like that, right? And they've got the Shanahan system and they're learning and they're ready for the spring. And then they come in and they're already in condition and they're ready to go for reps during the spring, during the summer. But also during the summer, the players union has whittled down the mandatory workout days and all this other stuff with the different CBAs and stuff like that. They don't work out as much. It seems like this team is constantly like missing days, like, oh, they got the day off today. Well, like training camp is supposed to be kind of crappy, right? Like it's kind of the point.
It's supposed to be called like
Marcel used to say, this is why you lift all them weights, right?
I miss
like,
the 2-a-day practices.
And I'm sure the players don't, and bless them, I don't either, but damn.
Yeah, now it's like they barely practice.
And if they're not practicing on site and they get hurt, they might not get paid that year. So like, why aren't you practicing on site? Oh, you can't practice on site because there's so many mandatory work. What are we doing? Like, what's going on? We don't want more preseason games. That's fine. I understand that. We don't want starters getting hurt in the preseason. That's stupid. But you got to give some of these guys some development somewhere that you can grab somebody. Right. So when you find a 7th rounder or an undrafted free agent, and you're like, wow, this guy's damn good, right? Somehow they were able to verify that Brock Purdy was able to do things last year, right? Whether that was in camp, whether that was in, whatever. They were able to do that through those different steps. They wouldn't have done that if they hadn't gotten those. How many other people out there could have been better than the people that could have been gotten if they just could have stuck with it for a little longer, but they just didn't have anywhere to go work their craft, right? Like, I would really like to see that. I'm hoping in the next CBA, you see that where each team has some sort of developmental system. And maybe with the colleges, end up being with this NIL thing and stuff like that. Maybe that starts to work. I don't know. There's got to be a way to make it happen, though, because if not, you're going to run into the same thing over and over and over again. And I don't know how many more available talented bodies you're going to have if you're not able to develop them and be patient with them.
I don't think it happens because it just sounds too logical.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. It's 2023. If it's logical, it can't be done.
I mean, come on.
Yes.
Baseball does it and it's successful. There are minor league teams all around the country. And it's the step between college and the pros for the people who aren't immediately going to the professional level. Instead, we make up these like UFL or XFL crazy rules, like random ass stuff that is not traditional football rules. So you have people who somewhat engage sometimes, but it's not football. So if you take it from college football and put in this intermediate step of minor league football and make it the same rules, but with people and people from college who can progress into a local Sacramento team or whatever, and maybe have an opportunity to progress into a college team. You also give people an opportunity to go to a football game that's not college, it's semi-pro. Some of these guys are going to make it into the NFL, just like baseball. I think it's genius. They try to do it, but take the 50-yard, whatever craziness out of it, and some of these other like attempts at making summer football a thing, make semi-pro football a thing, and make it a real thing. And I think you have something. I think you have
put them in San Jose at PayPal Park or something, right? Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know why it hasn't already happened. With the success of minor league baseball, who can't afford to take their family to a minor league baseball game multiple times a year as opposed to going to one professional game? It's expensive. You can go see your minor league team in your hometown 2, 3, 4 times a year. It's a great fun outing. Major league people come back and rehab in the farm system. You get to see professional players come in and play sometimes. It's great. It's a fantastic way for these guys to rehab, get back in the game. I don't know why they don't do it. I really don't. I don't know why the NFL doesn't adopt.
Because they'd have to spend more money, and nobody seems to want to do. Like, that's the whole thing about this third quarterback. Oh God, we'd have to spend for another player.
Well, yeah, the NFL would have to allow for that and expand the cap to allow for that quarterback. Absolutely.
But then the NFL is also more
by
physical than baseball.
$970,000 or $1.4 million.
Right, another couple million dollars.
So stupid. Like, why are you landing off your nose to spite your face, man? Like, why don't you just knock out your teeth because you don't want to brush them anymore?
Right.
Like, what are we doing?
So what's changed with the roster? They still have 53 guys, and I know, like, when I started watching football, they used to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster. So I know
there was always an emergency quarterback.
I know. Well, there was usually 3 quarterbacks, just suited up, or whatnot, and they were on 53. Now we're like, okay, that third quarterback might be the practice squad guy. So what's changed? We're not keeping an extra kicker on the field, or on the team. So are we getting another wide receiver? Because I know, like, back then we usually had 6 wide receivers too. So I don't know what position they're adding, or they're, because we're now not using a fullback. I know we do. The Niners have a fullback, but what position are they eliminating off the field or adding because we don't have a quarterback?
Sometimes they're adding a different offensive lineman. Like, you got to blame the Patriots for this one. This is something the Patriots started doing because they were starting to run it with 2 quarterbacks because, Brady was friggin' Cal Ripken Jr., right? Like, he just never, outside of the 1 year that he tore up his knee, like, he didn't miss a start, right? When you're able to only carry 2 quarterbacks, is you don't ever have to worry about the third guy getting in. It allows you to be like, well, maybe I can get this player that can play offense and defense and special teams active this week when I couldn't last week because I needed an extra blocker for something, right? It's one of the things that, again, you can probably blame New England for ruining. So everybody started to get cute with it. They're like, oh, well, we can run 2 quarterbacks. When I remember, like, in the early 90s or whatever, like, or in 80s, whatever, if you went to your third quarterback, he was an emergency quarterback. You couldn't go back to your other quarterbacks again until like the 4th quarter. There were different rules for it, but you could have an emergency quarterback there and they were specifically set up for it. Then when they increased it to 53, it would be anything, right? It used to be like people did more things. They were versatile, right? Like Joe Montana used to hold kicks, right? Like extra points and field goals, which is insane to me. Can you imagine if he broke his finger because Ray Wershing slipped and accidentally broke his finger? Because Ray Wershing never looked up at the goalpost, so like he accidentally slips on a divot and slices Montana's finger. Like,
yeah, it's not the football
great.
going up to the post, is his hand.
I would drive me insane. That would just be crazy to me. Like, what are you doing?
Amazing, though.
Yeah, he was an absolute
superstitious guy, though. Wouldn't look up.
Was
absolute robot. And every time Pat Summerall would say, he doesn't look up at the goalpost at all. Like, it didn't
Oh,
matter.
right?
It could be like a random Sunday in 1984, even though he said it 15 times. He doesn't look up. He just looks at he looks at the lines on the field, and he uses that, and that's all he does.
Yeah, after
And
the
he's
kick,
just
he'll
like,
look,
oh, boy.
but not before the kick.
Not before. Yeah.
Not before, yeah.
John Madden was superstitious too. He never flew.
Who's that?
John Madden.
Oh,
would
John
never
Madden,
fly. He always took
Yeah,
his
well,
I don't know. Was it
Yeah,
because
well, he had a
was
panic
superstitious?
attack too. Yeah, he had a
I think it was
panic
fear.
attack or something. Like, there was a thing on a flight back where I can't remember what happened, but he thought he was going to die, and he's like, "Nope, not doing that again." So,
he never
that was a wrap
flew.
for him.
He always took that bus everywhere.
Yeah, that's where the John Madden bus
superstition's
came.
real.
'cause
I'm gonna go
Randy,
get the candlestick dirt and shake it.
If I had
soon.
3 drivers and a luxury bus like that, shoot, I'll be on the road too.
Yeah, hey, who?
Yeah.
Right?
I
I don't
would
even
too.
need a driver. I just need the luxury bus. I'll be decking in the wind.
So I wanted to go back to what Beto said as far as football being more physical than baseball, as far as having, like a minor league team and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Like, do you think that kind of factors into it? Brian, what do you think? Brian, what do you think?
Football is going to be a physical sport because people are hitting each other. Baseball, you don't hit each other unless something really happens. The grind, the passion, people training, doing their own workouts, that could be competitive or be comparable. But baseball at this time, the only thing you could really say, I would say, is they play more games, so they're obviously practicing more. But I don't know if that's a good answer for you there or not, because I just don't see baseball being as harsh as football. It's just not
It's
the same
not.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be a little bit more like on your feet, maybe where you don't have to worry about other people injuring you. So when you do something, it's really just on you. You ran wrong or you stepped wrong. You didn't tie your shoes the right way or your cleats. So, I mean, with football, you always have to have your head on a swivel because you don't know. At least when I was playing high school football, you never knew when you were going to get hit. And if you're standing around on the field, even after the play, you can get hit. So you better be alert. You're either hitting somebody on the field or you're getting hit. I don't see that with baseball.
And to that point, this is why if you want to say Trey Lance to minor league or something like that they create in football, what happens if he gets hurt and he's done for the year? Because it's such physical type of game. And baseball, I mean, people do get hurt in baseball. If you're the shortstop and the runner takes you up by your knees, you get hurt. But it's more frequent in football. So the more games that you put players to play, the more risk you have of losing a player. So even though the idea is great about having extra games or extra places where your players can go out and play and get the reps they need, but it depends on the type of player too. If you have a backup, getting reps is one thing, but if you're having your starter out there taking a chance of getting hurt, especially in a meaningless game, it's not a good idea financially or any other way that I can look at it. That's why I don't ever see the NFL doing it, because it's such a physical type of game. That's why they only have 17 games, and that's a lot for
But
football.
Oh, it's going to be 18 as soon as it can be.
We have the Canadian Football League. We have this XFL stuff going on. So what's the difference there? These guys are playing in these leagues
Money.
to try and make a name for themselves. Exactly. They want to play. They want to try and make some name to get continue to play, get the reps, to get the reputation, and put themselves out there to be seen. Why not make it NFL football rules and make it a minor league situation where there is a farm drafting capability there, rather than it being different rules in Canada, different rules in the XFL? Why not have an NFL minor league process, whether that's in Canada, whether that's the XFL summer league thing that they're trying to promote? Make it a real system, a farm system that works. Why not? Rather than these crazy ideas that are out there that I think
the only way I can see that is if they
half-baked.
do it and they do flag football type of style practices where they're not actually tackling each other. They're going through all the formations. They're doing everything for the skilled players, but there are no actual tackling. I can see that. But to play regular football, because let's be honest, You watch a game in the Kansas City Chiefs, you go watch Patrick Mahomes. You watch a game in Buffalo, you go there to watch Josh Allen. If those guys ain't playing, yeah, people will still come to the game, but you're not going to make that much money on teams that are not playing their star players. So this is why the NFL, and it's all a branding. It's all a big brand. They don't want to lose money on their brand. That's why you can't even look at a quarterback nowadays. You look at them wrong, it's a penalty. Why? Because
Well, I mean,
what if people come to
I'm
look
not
at?
saying, Beto, that the starters aren't going to play in the NFL, but if you have somebody that is your Josh Johnsons of the world, why not have them playing for the Toronto Argonauts or the Hamilton Ticats? Oski wee wee, Oski wah wah. At least every week they're out there throwing a football to a guy playing football, doing a thing. And if you need to pull him up, you got a guy that's played football all season long in the Canadian Football League, which is your farm team, in Hamilton or Toronto or wherever.
Wasn't
And
he?
he's physically seen
Backup
football
quarterbacks
action.
or backup players, I agree with you 100%. I just don't see them doing it with starters.
Well, no, I mean, no one's going to do it with your starters, but I mean, like these third and fourth string guys we're talking about, like, have a farm system. I mean, the CFL already exists. Why not make it football, mandatory NFL football rules? Adopt that league and adopt those rules. This XFL summer league, I don't know whatever the whole 50-yard. I literally block all of it out because it's not football to me.
So let me ask this question. Let's say that was in place right now. Let's say we had that farmer type of in place. Where does Trey Lance fit in this? Do you think they send Trey Lance there?
Okay, so if the 49ers are the Hamilton Ticats are our farm league, he goes to rehab there. He goes there and does his rehab, and when instead of playing a scout team, he goes there and plays games and starts to come in and sub and get some reps and maybe starts a few games until he's ready to come back.
I would love that. I would love to see that, but I could see where they're at like 11 million. They're like, nope, we're not going to.
Exactly, Matt.
Here's the thing with Trey Lance now.
Because he could get injured again.
Well, in Trey Lance's case, he's a big money guy. Yeah.
Right. It's that same sign. What was it? I saw a player today that visited New England, and on the sign it said, availability is the best ability, right? Like, and right now you got to get him ready. Like he's got to, and there's no perfect way to do it. He's got to get reps and he's got to get healthy, but he's got to go out and play to get reps. And if he gets hurt again, then the cycle continues, right? And
okay, so then take Sam Darnold, who is the bench guy apparently, right? Like our designated bencher. Why would we not want to have Sam Darnold in our farm team playing a few games?
Even if he was there doing some practices, I could see that because I could see him running offense, doing whatever. What I would like to see is just a bigger pool of active players that have run in the system. It doesn't have to be anybody that's currently on the team now. If you're on the roster, like you're on the roster. Right. But these guys that come from college that need that 6th or 7th year, right? Because they just didn't. Those sorts of guys that you can sign immediately. Like remember the Continental Basketball Association, the CBA, not when it was a collective bargaining agreement. Like you could just sign a CBA guy to a 10-day contract or whatever. Like something like that for the NFL to me would be perfect. But you need something going on where they can pick those players up from, and they need to be running systems. They can't just be running spread, run and shoot offenses, out of college and then come in and figure out the league, right? Like. You want people that know some of the stuff that you're doing. So
from that perspective,
whether it's making practice squads bigger or just having a pool in the area to pick from when crap hits the fan, and that these guys are in your system as opposed to signing street folks. Like I think you'd be in better position. Another thing we'd be in.
Entire point.
Yeah,
I tried the whole. We had like NFL Europe, and that didn't really go off very well, right? And they were probably the more comparable teams with rules comparable to NFL because it was NFL Europe, right? So it's not the Canadian Football League, it's not the Extreme Football League, it's not the USFL.
Yep.
So the whole thing is you're right. Everybody's right. We have to have it to be consistent. It has to be the same rules. And that's why I'm going to circle back, guys. We have to have a bigger roster we have to have more preseason games because we don't have that farm team. So I know everybody doesn't want to hear it, but if we had more preseason games, then we could get these guys, into game situations where we can see their reps. But and Matt, I think you said it, until the players union, backs down a little bit, we're not going to be having more than one practice a day. We're not going to be having 17. We're having 17 games now, right? We want 18, but they're not going to back down until they get another bye week. So I don't see it happening just yet. And that's why I'm going to keep saying it. You'll hear me later on in chats and stuff. Let's get another preseason game out there, because why? Fans can go to it. A preseason game could be more like a minor league game where it's cheaper. And that's what it's been in the past. And my first game was a preseason game. It was the Niners and the Raiders back in Oakland when the Raiders came back to Oakland. My dad, he got the whole family tickets. We went to the preseason game, the Battle of the Bay, and the Niners won. Jeff Garcia, he won that game. And I walked out of there feeling really good that we won. But in the same sense, I was like, damn, my dad's team lost. And my dad really made it happen for us. He made it happen. And, not everybody can do that. I watch most of my games on the couch. I got everything I want in the fridge. I got my best lady right there on the couch sitting next to me, my best friend. And, I can turn up the TV. I usually have Rombo in the background. I have somebody else in the background. I don't like hearing the analyst on the TV. So I'll turn that down. I'll put closed caption on. And then I'm standing there.
I do that too.
I throw the jerseys on the ground. If the players, playing like crap, I'll go pick it up after a couple minutes because I don't think they deserve to be on the ground. But my dad's brothers are all Packer fans. And one of the things they did to rub into my dad's face, he's the only Raider out of a bunch of Indiana boys, right? How do you become a Raider in the state of Indiana? Right? So my uncle gave him a Brett Favre jersey. And every time the Raiders played Brett Favre, every time Brett Favre was on the TV, my dad would take that jersey and throw it across, land on right there on the front of the TV, right there on the floor, and go stomp on it. And you know what? Brett would usually win the game, but that was just the passion and stuff. So like for me, it means a lot, family gatherings and getting together, and a jersey. You can't always keep, your favorite player on the team. So get you a personalized one because they can't catch you.
So speaking
with
of
the number 3.
Or get retired players.
Yeah, retired players are great too because, what are they going to say about the retired player? He's fine. He did great that season, and that's why you like him, right?
Yep.
So,
Brian, I also like your hat. Shout out to the Kittle
Thank you.
Family Podcast, Hidden Pearls Podcast.
I actually won this off of a really cool podcast, a really cool YouTube channel. I think you guys might have heard of them. I think they're called East Coast Red and Gold.
Yes.
I heard of those legends.
And the shirt too. Yeah.
Just pick 3 as I have learned.
Yep.
Always
Just-
pick 3.
Lucky number 3.
Yeah, that's my jersey. It's been my jersey since high school, and I was a third string quarterback on my high school football team, and I was a kicker. So I was like, hey, that's you stay consistent if you can. If I would have got a different jersey number, then that would have been fine. But every team I've ever been on has been number 3, so I just try to keep it that way.
Awesome. So I have a question. Staying with the quarterback situation, have the Niners botched their evaluation of Trey Lance?
Mm.
And then I'm going to follow that up with our little game.
Okay.
I think they have. I think that this is my opinion. I think Trey Lance's opportunity came last year. Unfortunately, to no fault of his own, he got hurt. But if there was a time where the Niners would have been patient with his growing pains, would have been last year, because Jimmy was out the door no matter what. Brock wasn't not even on the freaking team yet, so that would have been a perfect time. Oh no, he was, but they didn't know too much about his situation, so that would have been a time for him to do his thing. Unfortunately for him, he got hurt. But I think if you're going to move up and draft a quarterback and give up that many spots, I would think you would start him day one and not keep Jimmy around. They should have got rid of Jimmy. Kyle likes to be a little conservative and kind of stay with what he knows and doesn't like to step out. And something about rookies, right? What is it about rookies he doesn't like to play? And particularly at the quarterback. And it's irritating. But I think that Trey, should have played year one. Okay, he's out year one. I understand the Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes situation. Fine, but year two was prime for him to take off and find out what we had in Trey. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and then Brock comes in and does his thing, and now it's like it's hard for people don't understand this. It's hard for Kyle to be patient now because he knows what he has in Brock, and I just can't see him just staying on Trey just on. Well, let's see what Trey can do when they know what they have in Brock. So, yeah, they botched it year one, and then unfortunately, injury botched the whole situation in year two by him getting hurt, and now Brock botched it by being as good as he was and winning the coaching staff. What Brock did, in my opinion, is what they wanted Trey to do when he came into camp, to just take off like that. And apparently Trey wasn't or did not come as advertised from college, and that's why I think they stuck with Jimmy. They felt that okay, maybe Trey is not what we thought. He wasn't as ready as we thought he would be, or we couldn't get him wrapped up fast enough. So they went conservative and they stayed with Jimmy. So they screwed that up. And then year two, injuries unfortunately happened. And here we are.
And serendipity because we did keep Jimmy.
Yeah.
Like how fortunate for us.
Yeah.
Well, and
Jimmy.
That's true.
It's kind of one of those deals, right? Like you can't win for losing. To me, I don't think they so much botched it. I think it's one of the deals where like they went to the gas station and they chose the wrong lottery ticket. Because at the end of the day, that's what the draft is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like
100%.
you're doing your best to evaluate all of these young men as they're rolling in, right? Based off of the information that you have. And they based it off of the information that they had. You know, he played one game against Central Arkansas, which I believe is famous for Scottie Pippen, right? Like there wasn't a ton of film to run with, but they really like the raw talent. They're like, man, we can coach this guy up. He's got to make that jump, right? You got to make that jump from 1AA to the pros. And this was the year. And you're right. They didn't work. We don't know if they botched it because he got hurt. He broke his leg.
Right.
We would have known if they had nailed this if he had played this year, right? If he plays and they made it to the NFC title game or won the Super Bowl, then they didn't botch it. If he had a great year, if he started to get caught up, if he played like he did in the second half of the Houston game the rest of the year, guess what? We're all going to be pretty dang happy, right? We're going to be pretty thrilled. Instead, he gets hurt. Like they picked the wrong lottery ticket. They picked the one that you know, there's a second chance drawing that they have a good chance of winning, but we don't really know yet, right? That's really what it boils down to. That's where we're at on Trey Lance. It's not his fault. It's not anybody's fault. I don't look at to me, their system's going to be good because if you look at this quarterback that they've run through this system, they've all produced. Look at the ridiculous, every time they have these ridiculous stats, like here comes Nick Mullins rolling through, right? He tears up his elbow. That kind of screws it up, right? Like that just, they just can't seem to evaluate luck in these situations, right? And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the lack of candlestick dirt that was transferred over. Maybe they should have just brought the whole field and moved it. They should have moved all of it. They should have just picked that field up.
Next time I'm getting a field pass, Matt, and I'm sprinkling it.
I think that's what it is.
With me, and I'm gonna.
I think that's the idea. I think you know what? The night before. Do you think the night before, if we got a burn permit, we could just burn sage in the parking lot and we could do a dance? Like I don't care. I will do anything to change the luck of the quarterback position. But to me, they've run through quarterbacks like some Major League Baseball teams rotate closers each year, right? Mm-hmm. Like they rotate them on the fly because they know if they know the system or they learn the system, they can run it, and it depends on the guy's skill level, the things that they're able to do. But Purdy, to me, somebody said, oh, he's a little bit better than Jimmy. Well, if Purdy's a little bit better than Jimmy, we could win the Super Bowl because that's all we needed to beat the Chiefs, right? Mm-hmm. Like,
just a little
isn't that all you need? Like, what the hell does everybody want, man? Like, yeah, we had Joe Montana. Not every franchise gets two franchise quarterbacks. We already had our two, right? We had Montana, we had Young. Okay. Yeah. Everybody else has been pretty good since, in various forms or fashions. Garcia, Kaepernick.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've had some
Jimmy,
good ones for sure.
Steve DeBerg was great in '79. I mean, he threw for almost 5,000 yards. You didn't throw for almost 5,000 yards in the '70s. Like if you did, you were like Doc Ellis. Like your coach was probably on acid. Like that was the only way that was happening in the '70s.
Yep.
Like that was ridiculous. You go back and look at that. Like that completely changed the game with what they did.
Mhm.
And he was able to do that with Steve DeBerg. And then all of a sudden, he just happens to slide Joe Montana in there, and it just worked like a charm. Changing game.
Ryan, what do you think?
I think the whole Trey Lance situation, I think we wanted a quarterback because for the longest time, everybody nailed it. We need a quarterback that can stay healthy. I don't know if it was Jimmy not being athletic enough to win the Super Bowl. If it was we decided not to run the ball, maybe he came to the line and audible, because now that's what they're saying is it was supposed to be a run play, and now they're saying he came to the line and audible. I don't know if it was Bosa not getting, the calls. I mean, we were up like 10 points in like less than 6 minutes in the game. And for whatever reason, the beginning of the game when Kittle got held, the pass interference call, I mean, like you imagine Robbie could have got 3 points right there, right? But there's just so many different things. But since he couldn't keep himself healthy, and in 2018, I mean, I like Jimmy Garoppolo. There's 3 jerseys in my house of them because my little girl wanted one, my wife and me, right? But I tell you what, I don't ever want to wear that jersey again. I really don't. In 2018, when he cut in and he got hurt, I'm like, what are you doing? You could have just went out of the back. And at that point, if you guys watched the game too, we were down like 2 scores or something at that point. Yeah, sure, we had a chance to like come back and be within 1 score, but you could have just went down. I mean, you didn't have to save the clock at that time. Yeah, so for me, like, I can't justify why he did that, right? And then from there, it never seems like he can be healthy. So we need to move off of him, right? So everybody wanted to move off of him. Even people who like Jimmy Garoppolo, wanted to move off of him. Because how are you going to be on the team if you can't stay healthy? It doesn't matter if you have all the talent in your pinky. If you don't get on the field, it's not helping anybody. So I think really, and a lot of people said it too, and you might have heard me say this before. We went after a veteran quarterback. We didn't have the draft capital yet, but we were going for it, right? We were trying to go for Watson, but we were hearing all the rumors coming from the Texans, and we were just backing off a little bit. We didn't know Stafford was in Mexico with McVay. We didn't know that, but we wanted him too. We were talking to him too, and his choices came down to the Niners or the Rams. Well, we didn't pick up the phone fast enough and say, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Because we were still trying to hear about what happened with Watson. And then the Sam Darnold, we tried to trade up to the Jets and get Sam Darnold, because I truly believe the Niners were trying to go after like Zach Wilson, even though maybe that's not the right pick. I think the Niners liked Zach Wilson at the time. I think they were trying to get up to the 2nd pick with the Jets. We had Saul over there, but he wasn't dealing with us. So I think that made a big issue. So then we trade with Miami and the Eagles, I think it was, right? And we move up, but we still don't know what quarterback we're going to go after. And everybody's talking about Fields, and they're talking about Mac Jones, and nobody wants Mac Jones because he's just like Jimmy Garoppolo. And then Fields seemed like he was the guy until his medical issue came out and said he had, I think, epilepsy. But we can't have somebody getting hit and having a seizure on the field. That would be like a Trent Baalke pick right there, right? Getting there, an ACL. I mean, so for me, when I heard
the rehab clinic, yeah.
Yeah, when I heard they picked up the phone to go and try to call for Aaron Rodgers, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going all in right now. And then it didn't happen. And it's not a big deal that it didn't happen, but the big deal is it came out that it didn't happen. And it seemed like at that time, too, Rodgers really wanted the deal to happen. And then from him kind of got like salty with Green Bay, he had a down season. And now the rumor's back out there again. So for me, do I think we botched the pick? Most definitely. I don't think we thought who we were really going to get. I think we really knew the pick at the end. I think they knew what Trey Lance had, like his abilities and stuff. But for whatever reason, the Niners didn't want a rookie, and I think that's facts. I think the Niners wanted a veteran, and then when we got him, and we seen how raw he was in practice, or maybe it was him breaking his finger in preseason. You break your finger, your throwing hand. I mean, you can't really come out and play. And then we seen him in the Cardinal game run like a running back. Why? Because his finger was broken. So, if you're a quarterback, you have to have healthy hands, and you got to be on the field. So I think the Niners did botch it. I think they liked Trey Lance, but I think they botched it. I think they wanted somebody else.
Okay, real quick. Beto has to leave. But thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
And
That's why you have to come back because I had trivia questions for you.
Yeah, I had to go pick up my granddaughter.
Beto,
I was supposed to
we'll
do
see you
40
next
minutes and I
week.
got caught up in the conversation. I just got
It's all
text.
good. It's all good.
But definitely come back. Thank you for having me on. All right,
Yeah,
guys.
no problem. See ya.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Go Niners and go Lakers. I see your Lakers.
Yes, especially tonight.
I want to circle back when you said they wanted a veteran. I feel like if they'd wanted a veteran that year, they would have said, "Okay, Tom Brady, we would love to have you." Right? They had the chance to do that the year
They
before,
had the
and
chance to do Tom Brady.
that's the one they botched. Like one thing that this franchise is doing is they're learning, and hopefully they're learning to maybe say yes the first time instead of circling back. Right?
Mhm.
Because I feel like if they'd said yes to Tom Brady in 2020, they probably win the Super Bowl that year.
We totally win the Super Bowl.
I just feel like it would have changed the entire karma of the franchise. Instead, they
The
didn't.
thing I think with his contract, I think that's the reason we couldn't go after him because he had signed with Tampa Bay and it was supposed to be like a 2-year deal.
And we had the chance, though. Yes, I hate it when I do that. That team had the chance, though. 49ers, they really had the right of first refusal. And they're like,
You're good
Yeah.
with saying we. I mean, we all buy
I hate
jerseys.
that. I'm not-
We all go to the games,
Yeah.
buy
No.
tickets.
well, I mean, I am a
When the
season
Niners
ticket holder,
lose,
so
I say
yeah.
we
I mean, I
lost.
guess I can say
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
So,
Well, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's we because when the Niners lose, I say we lose. When we
Yeah.
win, I'm
Yep.
like, we won. So it's like I didn't do
Yep.
anything except sit there and watch. But
When they lose, we're depressed. Yes, it's correct.
it affects the we, the collective we, right?
Yes. Yes.
takes
If the
me a couple
49ers
days
win,
for
my
sure.
house is happy.
So
Yep.
speaking of all this
Everybody
quarterback controversy, now all the rumors are back out there. It's Aaron Rodgers is back in the conversation. I've seen the rumor mill about Lamar Jackson coming to the Niners, like just nonsense. Everywhere you turn, it's like,
The
we're
Kirk
back on
Cousins
the
thing.
run. We're back on all these.
And Tom Brady coming out of retirement.
Rob's going to come out of retirement if we pick up the phone and call him, right? He's coming back.
Yeah.
You know what all
Although-
this is? This is the gap between now and the draft.
Right.
How do you get those page views? How do you get those engagements? How do you get all that stuff, right? Well, somebody said something. It could be old information, right? It could be accurate information, but it just might be a little outdated, right?
Well,
And where is it coming from? The regular media. I mean,
these are supposed like rumors as of yesterday and today that we are.
Yeah, but
if the Jet deal falls through, we are totally in on Aaron Rodgers.
As someone who used to be
Florio had said that.
A couple people.
no, it was Craig Carton from WFAN.
I know,
like
but
Carton too.
Florio
Yes, Carton
and
in New York was one of them today.
Florio and Chris Sims were talking about it. I mean, if it doesn't come from Matt Mayoko, JLC, Cam Inman, David Lombardi,
Some
I
of
think
our
it's-
local guys,
Yeah.
I don't buy it for a minute.
Right.
If it doesn't sync up with them first, that's kind of my sniff test on anything that happens. Did it originate on one of the main 49ers like media outlets, right? Or did it originate from like Rap Sheet or Schefter, right? Either one of those
Right,
two,
'cause
right?
They're
Because
big rumor mill guys, right?
And most of those, well, because they're linked up with the agents and then they're linked up with the teams. Like that's just how that works. That's how the insider game happens.
Mhm.
But like, or Pelissero is also kind of getting in that little thing.
Wait,
like
I
that
can get
sort of
mine
deal.
too. Hold on.
I don't have a white. Oh, actually, I do have a
Oh,
white
wait.
hat downstairs, but it doesn't have the thing on it. So,
she trips
but-
over everything to go and get it.
yeah. What happened? She got injured. We lost Beck because she went to go get a white hat, and then like all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
By the way, what? Can I take a quick break here and do a read? I think we could probably slide that in here real quick, and then.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to us, the East Coast Red and Gold on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
For sure. And don't forget, of course, for the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you content, that includes interviewing athletes, media members, building tailor-made shows in sports-centric cities around the globe, and, ready to take that next step. IESportsradio.com. Patreon link is there with 5 different tiers. First one starts at just $5 a month. That's pretty cool. Shout outs on all the shows. Higher tiers include sports radio merchandise, access to Podcaster U, and you could even be on The Defining Moment, which of course is the flagship show. So thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for sports. Like it and subscribing to us.
Yeah, and it's also iesportsradio.com/East Coast Red and Gold. Okay, moving on. Becca, nice white hat.
Inspired by Ty.
I will not give in to the peer
white hat.
pressure.
I mean,
like I gotta walk downstairs. Like it's too
I
much. If I get out of this chair, I'm not getting back into it.
No, Ty. Beto had to leave. Okay, I want to talk about kickers. Okay, this will make Ty happy. I know this will make Brian happy. Okay, now we signed Zane Gonzalez. David Lombardi had asked John Lynch if this was the move for kicker. And John Lynch said that it's a kicker, not the kicker. Brian, I'm going to start with you. What do you think about this?
I think he's a kicker, but he's not the kicker. I think this might be, well, okay, I said it a little while ago. I thought, hey, maybe they're just trying to get somebody on camp, in case something happens and we can't get Robbie Gould or we can't draft a kicker or the undrafted free agent kicker that we bring in possibly, because there's a lot of kickers that can go undrafted and we could get a good one there, but we don't know. So I think getting Zane is our security blanket because we're not paying him any money. Like we're really not. And I just can't get behind it thinking he's really the guy when I think was his quad that blew out last year. He didn't play all last year. And when you're a kicker and you have leg injuries, it's not
a good sign.
It's really not. You don't recover from that. It's like, yeah, you have toe injuries or you have like a knee injury or ankle injury. It's not working out for you after that. And then this is talking about your quad. That's where you really get your muscle from. So it's like, I don't know. I'm going to hold out and see if Robbie does come back because he hasn't been signed from anybody yet.
Right.
But I'm not going to say he is or isn't either. And if we get a kicker that can kick a little harder, a little further, okay. I know people say, it's one of those things like we can't kick into the end zone. Well, you got to think about it too. They might be strategic. They might be just thinking like, let's kick the ball. Let's get our guys down there. Let's try to pin them in the one. Now that's great. But when they run it out like to the 40, that mentality goes out the window, right? We'd rather just them down in the end zone and take it out at the 25. But if they're always starting at the 25, that never gives us that advantage. So I do like that. But yeah, I'd like to see somebody, come in with a little stronger. But if we could win a ring with Robbie and he can, retire and go back to Illinois, that'd be great. I'd be happy. So I'm going to keep his jersey in the shopping cart until I find out if he's getting cut or not. I'm not getting it. You know what I mean? So
I agree. I think we're holding out for Robbie, and he's just an insurance signing. There's no guaranteed money for him. It's a 1-year deal, so it is what it is. It's that we got this guy until we can get our guy, and then once we have our guy, he's gone. Yeah.
What do you think, Maddie?
I really liked what Ty said. I like the camp legs. Bring in everybody. Do what Bill Walsh did and just bring in when he brought in the 100 defensive backs, right? And they only managed to find Dwight Hicks, and they had to draft 3 the next year. Just bring in every frigging kicker from here across the globe. Bring in soccer players. I don't care. I don't give a rat's ass who you bring in. There's got to be somebody that can just be damn good and can kick the ball for about $1.4 million, not 6. And also won't hurt them damn selves while trying to tackle on a kickoff.
The Jets did that with Tony Miolo way back when.
A lot of these guys, Notre Dame used to grab their kickers off the soccer team too, right? That happens a lot.
Shout out to Tony Miolo from Kearney, New Jersey. Also, happy birthday to our friend Dwight Hicks.
Yes.
Special
Dwight
shout out
Hicks
to
and
him.
the hot licks. Happy birthday.
Brian, out of the 11 guys who departed from the Niners, who do you think will miss the most?
probably Jimmy Ward. A lot of people like Jimmy Ward. I'm not the biggest Jimmy Ward fan. I made fun of him a lot. I got mad at him. He was always injured early, so I used to call him Hospital Ward. I'd call him Hospital Ward up and down, and be like, "Why are we still sticking with this guy?" I mean, like every year, and I'm like, "Can't we get somebody? Can't we draft somebody?" Because forever, it doesn't seem like we ever go after safeties or corners. We always go after like a defensive lineman or an offensive tackle. And I'm like, we never invest, and for the longest time, we never invested in a wide receiver either, or the ones that we did were like, you know, they're not even in the league anymore, right? So I think probably Hospital Ward, Jimmy Ward, and he does need to be called Jimmy Ward. He played really well, and I think he's going to be a really good leader on the Texans, and I think that's going to be probably a leader in our locker room we're going to miss.
Okay. And favorite free agent signing?
I like Hargrave. I like that one. That was a really big one. I think he's going to be great because we need somebody who can put pressure in the middle. I don't know if it's Kinlaw. I like Armstead, but he's got to stay healthy too. He can have plantar fasciitis going from one foot to the other foot. And that seems like what happened with him last year. It's like, just as soon as he's ready to come back, oh, now it's his other foot, or now it's his ankle. Now it's my knee. Now it's just my hip. So I need somebody that can play. I like Hyder and stuff like that, Kerry Hyder, but we got to keep people that are going to be here for a year or two that are productive, not just sign people for 1 year deals and then hope then when we can bring them back, they're going to play just as well as they did in the past, because you don't always get the same player 2 years later.
I think the Javon Hargrave signing really put the whole DeForest Buckner thing to rest.
Yeah.
For sure. I know Beto did a show earlier, the 2019 defense versus the 2023 defense. And that was one of the things he brought up. But any similarities, differences between both defenses?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Ty Austin's right. My favorite signing was Tabor Pepper. I've said it best. I do, but he's right.
Go ahead, Maddie. What do you think?
Defensively, I really the Jimmy Ward thing is one that a lot of people mention because of the leadership thing, right? I don't think it's going to be so much you're going to miss him on the field. I think they're going to miss him in the locker room, even though there's a lot of guys that can make up for that. I think sometimes that takes a little bit. I think that's one of the reasons they start off so slowly every year. It takes them a little while to get going because of that locker room thing. Like, you don't know who's popping in.
But the 2019 defense versus the 2023, similarities, differences?
I think the 2019 defense was a little bit more stout on that defensive line. They were just a little bit more depth there, right? I think Gifo had things kind of taken down, but I think Bosa's a better player now, right? I think maybe our secondary is a little better now. I don't like our linebacker depth, guys. Like, we get hurt. Like, you're not rotating in, right? I feel like you're hurting special teams if you rotate other guys in. I didn't think we had that issue in 2019. So probably 2019 defense still, but 2023 has a chance. And look, we don't know what they're going to add in the draft. They might find the guy in the draft, right, that completes this whole thing. You can find linebackers wherever. You can find safeties and corners wherever. Heck, you can find defensive tackles wherever sometimes, right? Like, I trust that they're going to hit a home run on somebody in this draft. Maybe a couple doubles, maybe a couple triples. And if they do, and if the home run is on the defensive side, watch out. If they draft a really good linebacker or an impact corner that nobody saw coming, then you're looking at this may be one of the best defenses of all time. That's another question to follow up on after this, which was the best 49ers defense we've ever seen.
Becca, what do you think?
I personally like the Tayshaun Gibson re-signing and Jake Brendel being re-signed in free agency. I think having Jake Brendel be back again gives us, some consistency. And I love that Tayshaun Gibson is there. I think he was underrated. He played really, really well for us. I think above expectation for a veteran journeyman guy. He's been in the league a long time. And the relationship he has with Hufanga and that ability to mentor him, I think the team saw that, and I think everybody really saw how he fit in as a leader. And I think that is some key free agency signings that are a bit underrated.
I think Emmanuel Mosley will be missed.
Yeah,
Even though he was hurt. And Javon Hargrave is my favorite signing for sure. And as far as the 2019 versus 2023 defense, I'm going to take the 2023 defense. As Maddie alluded to, I think it's a bit better, especially on the back end, the secondary. Yeah, I don't like the linebacker depth either. But I'm expecting, Marcelino McCrary Ball to come in, Demetrius Flanagan Fowles to come in and step up. I mean, they have big shoes to fill. Al Shire is no longer on the team, but yeah.
Well, I think we know what we got in 2019. 2023 is still yet to happen. So
that's true.
I think, there's always optimism, right? What can these guys do? So we know 2019 ended a certain way. Why not look to the future and expectation? So eye on the prize.
Whether it's this draft or whether it's post-draft when
Right.
teams decide to cut guys that were like, oh, hey, bargain bin shopping, right? Like that's going to be the time. To me, this is when the 49ers and teams like this, good franchises, finish off their roster, right? And they get the right people. They're not rushing to get they got everybody they wanted at first, right? They got Hargrave, they spent up to get him, right? Just like last year, they spent up to get Mooney, right? Same deal. But then the rest of the time they just waited. They waited for the market to come to them, and they did pretty well with that. So I feel like the market's going to continue to come to them because you're going to have a lot of guys. There's still a lot of dominoes to fall. There's still a lot of quarterbacks got to shuffle, and when those quarterbacks got to shuffle, they got to create roster spots. And a lot of times, if somebody drafts they get somebody on their board that they weren't expecting to be there. Well, all of a sudden, somebody gets cut that probably was expecting to be there after the draft. There's a lot of different, and maybe they become post-June 1st cuts. So there's a couple different waves of free agency that I think the 49ers are going to be really well set to take advantage of. And at some point, Nick Bosa is going to sign an extension. That's going to free up some more money. At some point, something's going to happen with Christian McCaffrey. That's going to change his salary, and that's going to free up some more money. Yeah. There's a lot more money to be freed up. So if there's anything out there that can help this team be better and be the best that there can possibly be, they're going to go after it, and they're going to have the room to be able to go after it. There's a lot of flexibility on this team to get stuff done, which a lot of other teams don't have right now.
Brian, do you think we use all 11 picks?
Absolutely. Nope. I don't. I think we don't. I think there's 11 players and we're not going to use them. We're going to trade up. We'll either lose a couple by trading up for next year or even trade up this year. I know it's not the biggest, we don't all want to hear this, but supposedly with the Jets trading, they're supposed to be trading 2 2s and a couple of 3s. We have a couple of 3s that they're saying we could actually trade up and then use a couple 2s next year to go for Aaron Rodgers. So if that happens, I'm not going to be mad. I'm really not.
I do not want Aaron Rodgers.
so that plays right into our start cut, start bench and cut game. Like all the what ifs with these quarterbacks, right?
I do have to say, Ty missed our quarterback conversation. Ty, you may not want to go back and watch the replay. Just saying. But yeah, I don't want Aaron Rodgers. I don't, no. Just no.
Although, I don't know, I feel like he's kind of salty right now about everything and maybe just wants to go out there and blast everybody. and that could be fun to watch. Although I really don't think that's fair to Purdy. Purdy's earned the starting job and it's his to lose, as we've discussed in previous episodes. But, just now the rumor mill is all over the place.
Yeah. But again, it's the national media. Yeah. And it's, it's always about the 49ers. That's for sure. we mentioned earlier, although Bryant did, about Javon Kinlaw. There's a couple videos surfacing that, he's working out. I think he's down to 305 pounds.
Well, God, I hope
Um,
so.
Yeah,
Like,
he is.
geesh, I hope he's working out. If he's not, I'm really concerned. First off, let me just line that up there. If he had not been working out, I hadn't seen any videos of him working out, I'd be genuinely concerned.
Well, just I don't know about him dropping all that weight though, because we saw what happened in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, that does not make any sense to me. Like, what? I want a fat ass in there, right? And I say this as a fat ass, like I can say that, right? Like I want a big butted, like Vince Wilforky, Ted Washington-y person
the frame.
who's just gonna, how Madden always used to like circle butt sweat, and he'd be like, that guy can't keep his pants up, like that sort of deal. Like that's who I want playing defensive tackle. I don't want some athletic. Warren Sapp was not some physical, Warren Sapp, is amazing
Bubba
human
Harris
being. I'd say
was a
sarcastically.
favorite of John Madden. Just saying.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And Nate Newton was too. But on the defensive line, like you want that swamp assy sort of guy, and like I don't see it. That doesn't seem like what he's looking to do. Like that seems de-endish to me. Like what are we doing? Like I'd like to see him around 310, 320. But I mean, if he's taking that weight off to save his knee, so be it. But it's all about having that firm base on that defensive line, man. Like that's what it boils down to. And if you don't have it, like it doesn't matter what you do.
So you're saying you can't have swamp ass and be fit at the same time? Is that what I'm hearing?
Welcome to the East Coast Red and Gold show, everyone. That's right.
That's what Madden used to do. John Madden was in the Hall of Fame. He would literally go on the telestrator and circle. Look at this butt sweat.
If you
when
are
the butt
just
sweat gets to here, right? Like this is where that would be like.
We have devolved into chaos. If you're just
that's how we decided the all Madden teams. It was ridiculous.
If you are just tuning in on the multiple platforms where you can just listen to our audio, we are talking about butt sweat.
Yeah, we are. Yep. In a circle.
And John Madden's
welcome to the show.
To circle.
Brian, I'm sorry. But this is what we do.
This is where we end up.
I'm just glad I'm not bound by saying, I wanted Aaron. So I'm just gonna be quiet for a little bit. I'll just sit over here. But no,
no. Everybody's opinion is welcome on this show.
Yes. How do you feel about butt sweat? Where do you stand on the ability of a player and the amount of butt sweat he produces?
Do tell.
I don't know if the sweat makes the man or the butt does, but I know you got to have weight down there, and if you don't have the strength in your leg and it's your knee, because you have to have a firm foundation, right? So he's already big enough. We know that, but we've been seeing him get pushed around. So is it because he's not got the muscles in his legs, or is it because his knee's bad? So by him losing weight, is it because he's just been working out? I would be interested to find out what kind of weight room workout he's doing, because if it's all upper body, okay, we've seen that. We've seen him go around and do the boxing thing and stuff like that. Okay. But I want to see you do some leg squats, and I want to see you do some stuff that's going to, I don't know, maybe you can't because of your injury. I don't know. And if that's the case, if you can't develop your legs, I don't know how much longer you're going to be in the league. I guess we've all seen it. He's got to get that push, and he's getting pushed on. So.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, but I guess we'll wait and see what happens. Brock Purdy injury update. He said everything is healed from the stitches. Now it's just range of motion until he can start throwing. Him throwing in June also depends on his rehab up until that point. But he's feels very optimistic. He also spent the last month watching games, getting back to basics with the playbook, his footwork, reads, formations, etc. Becca, what do you think about all this? I know sometimes people may say it sounds too good to be true, but what do you think?
Well, I think that, we had the doctor on who said the healing process is a finite amount of time. It is 12 weeks and the healing is done. So once the healing is done, that part is over, and then it's a matter of the flexibility and the rehab and getting back into throwing shape. So I think the timeline sounds good. It sounds like he's healing the way we expect it. Now it's a matter of the rehab and getting his arm back into shape. And then I think there's a mental piece of it too, you know, about being hurt and injured, and is he going to be able to mentally go back to being this ice cold thing and not worry about, is someone going to hit my arm, and, you know, can I take another hit, or is that going to, you know, being scared, you know, seeing ghosts and being afraid of that. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time for that, but I don't know necessarily if he's going to start. I think we've said, you know, from a while ago that Trey's probably going to start the season. You know, it would be, I think, miraculous if he's in week 1, but I guess if he starts throwing in June, anything's possible if he's really on that magical timeline with rainbows and butterflies and sunshine. But you know, hey, or we might need Kirk Cousins or Lamar Jackson.
Oh boy.
Or you know, whatever other quarterback
Or any quarterback that's available.
Yeah. Magically, we need all of them, supposedly. And we are out there after them too.
Yep. Maddie, what do you think?
I have to go back to what we were talking about with the quarterbacks, because I need to just take a second and I need to just take all of the things, right? If the rumors start with sports radio, they're not real. Okay. I feel like I'm telling people about, like, you know, things that they were reasoned with from childhood. Most of the time, if it's on sports radio, it's not real. Okay. I can't explain to you that, you know, for most of folks that are doing like the content creation, you got to do likes and clicks. Well, the original likes and clicks were radio ratings. Okay. And when there's nothing going on, you got to come up with things to make things, right? You got to get people talking. So what is now happening is these random, ridiculous sports radio rumors are floated out there as like things to be reported on. And then you see it in your feed 10 to 15 times, and they're sourced from a radio report, and people are like, oh, that's valid. No. Go to almost every single trade, free agency signing, almost anything. It is so very rarely broken by sports radio or correct because of sports radio. The hit percentage might be 5% tops.
Yeah.
Like, they will come up with the most random thing. You see, and it's not just the NFL. They'll do it with MLB. They'll do it with the NBA. Just whatever they can throw out there. They don't do any math behind it. Like, and what I'm saying is, no, just stop falling for it. Nope. Aaron Rodgers is not coming to San Francisco. Okay.
We talked about it. His cap hit is too much, and we're never going to afford.
It's not happening.
Kirk
Do you want to keep Nick
coming
Bosa?
to San Francisco.
Kirk Cousins isn't. You know, I don't want to be all Rick Pitino back in the late '90s. You know, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish aren't working through that door. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, not walking through that door.
Lamar Jackson.
Okay? Yeah. Lamar Jackson is not walking through that door.
Definitely not.
It's not happening. And they're not going to trade Trey Lance because it does absolutely nothing for our cap. In fact, it makes it worse.
Yeah.
There's no help there. None. They've already budgeted for him, no matter what he's doing, whether he is holding a clipboard for 17 games, whether he is starting 17 games. He is paid basically the same amount. And
you know, like, we're all fanatics, right? And I mean to cut you off, but if we was to go sign Aaron Rodgers somehow this season, he's only $15 million. We can make that happen.
We have $3 million in cap space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what they're
but
saying. That's what they're saying right now is they can restructure it and they can get more money out of the cap where we'll go up from 3 million to a little bit more. We can actually get it to I think about 20 million, and we could get Aaron Rodgers. Which this is all fanatics, right? We're all fans, so we're all trying to figure out is this really possible or not. So there is a way that you can go and get Aaron Rodgers, and then next season, if he doesn't want to be here, that's when we can cut, and let him go, and we won't get hit. But you're right. If we was to trade Trey Lance, that's going to be really hard because we're going to get hit with a cap hit. But
Yeah.
there is a way for us to get Aaron Rodgers and still have Trey Lance this season.
and there may be. My concern is if you get Aaron Rodgers, like, what do you do with the rest of your roster? Somebody's gonna get DeForest Bucknered, right? That's just gonna happen. I hate to turn that into a verb, but like they decided to that's what they're going to do. And that's somebody that, you would have expected to stay on this defensive line for years and stay in. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was involved in the community, involved in this is, those United Way commercials about, hi, I would have expected like back in the day, like he would have been the guy, hi, I'm DeForest Buckner from the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm here to do. Do you want a guy who's 90% retired, who finally decided after sitting in a dark room, which he could have done in his own closet,
Hey, but remember, these are like similar questions though. When everybody was saying, "Oh, we could get Tom Brady," do we really want Tom Brady? He's at the end of his career.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to say about this: Tom Brady's going to show up for the offseason and actually work with his wide receivers. Aaron Rodgers did not do that last year, and that was the difference between the Packers making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. Period. End of discussion. He did nothing last offseason. It's great that he's at the point in his life where he doesn't want to do that anymore, and I totally get it. But if you're not committed to that 24/7, if you're not flying your teammates in to get, even Zach Wilson was doing it last year. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you're not doing it at all, especially when you're breaking in new receivers, and it looked like for the first 5 or 6 weeks, what was he doing? It looked like he was breaking in new receivers that did not know what they were doing, did not know what to expect from him, and he did not know what to expect from them. You can't have that. You cannot have that. We will not have that this year. Brock Purdy is going to know what all his receivers are doing. Trey Lance is going to know what all his receivers are doing. I bet Sam Darnold's going to know what all his receivers are doing. I'm fascinated by the Sam Darnold thing. I'm fascinated by that. Looking at what he did and what Carolina was able to do with him last year and kind of bring some things out by actually building somewhat of a, skeletal offense around him. He actually played pretty decent, right? Now, all of a sudden you bring it in. If this becomes the place where guys come back and this becomes the rebound place, like, how offensive coordinators go to Alabama to get their careers back on track? Like, if the 49ers become that place in the league where players go to rebuild their stock and learn under a system and really somehow, find themselves in high leverage situations that they come up big in because they're coached up well, they can really make some money. We've already seen it with the defensive line, right? We've seen it with the offensive line. Laken Tomlinson, Mike McGlinchey. On the defensive line, all these guys that went through the Chris Kachurik, rehabilitation process. Guys are getting money left, or Arden Key, Charles Amenahue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. There's a lot of quarterbacks out there that would probably love to be rehabilitated, right? And if they get one good game with the 49ers and they win, boy, that might set them up for a decent contract next year with somebody, right? And it gets them a chance for a starting job. So, no. Play decent. Definitely not our bar.
I would agree with that, though, what you said about Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. If Tom Brady came back, he's going to be 100% all in and working.
Right.
Whereas I think Aaron Rodgers is, he has an attitude, and there's just, I don't know, some sort of cynical air about him now, where he just feels cheated and jaded. I don't know. Something about it just feels like he wants revenge in some form or fashion that's not going to translate well. And plus, we've already talked about his contract and not being able to really afford him. And even if we can maneuver cap money, what is that going to do to the team? There's going to be some detrimental side effect of it. And I don't think we want that. I don't think we want to bring his kind of attitude to the team.
Well, see, that's my whole thoughts with like T.O. and stuff like that. I actually got to meet T.O. and I met him when I was a little kid, and maybe that was the worst thing in my life because when you're a little kid and you walk up to your hero and you're like, "Hey, man, you're my hero," and he's like, "Thanks," and like that's exactly what he did. Thanks, and I'm like,
Thanks.
"Wow, okay, I'll see you around. I'm gonna be rooting for you next game," and he's like, "Thanks." What did I say? I didn't say anything, right? So when you have somebody that has a bad attitude or a toxic
Yeah.
you're still a great player. It doesn't really people don't care about your feelings or your attitude. They care about you winning. And we're not asking for Aaron Rodgers to run for president.
Right.
We're asking for him to win the Super Bowl for the 49ers. So if he came in for one season, I'm not going to put him in my Hall of Fame or my favorite player, but I'm going to be happy that they got the job done. And I think that's where we're at right now is we just need
Right.
that player to come in. And if we lose a player here or there because of it, but that player that we gain, like that quarterback, is able to win the Super Bowl, I'll be okay for the next 30 years saying, hey, at least we won this Super Bowl because it's been about 30 years since we went on Super Bowl. And like Matt said, I think he said earlier, what was our best Super Bowl or our best defense? I'd say the '94 Super Bowl defense is our best. That's the one I remember. That's the one that we last won. And since then, everything that we've done since then, we haven't been able to replicate. So
I just think
I would-
his antics would be a distraction.
I think it would be too. I do. I think his diva attitude is just not.
Like Brian, I get what you're saying, and and that's your opinion, and I appreciate that. And but I just think Packers fans are exhausted by like just how he is, and even like I listen to Sirius XM NFL radio. And there are like Jet fans calling in that are now exhausted over like this whole thing. And he's not even on their team.
And it's not even this one actually kind of isn't his fault, right?
True.
This is just the two teams being stupid. If you're Green Bay has already decided that they're leaving the current wife for the office girlfriend, okay? To use that analogy, that's what they've decided to do. And they're literally running around town with the office girlfriend, yet they're really mad. And they don't want the wife to go get this new relationship because they want to make sure they're getting there, whatever, right? It's fascinating to me. If you want to be done with this guy so fast, get rid of him. Get a second rounder. You've already done this deal once with the Jets. You already have the blueprint. You go back to what you offered for Favre, and it's conditional on whether he plays next year, whether he plays this year, and that's it. It's not hard. Like, why are you making this hard? Why are you drawing this hard line in the sand if you don't want him back? If you have decided that you just don't want this anymore, why is this still dragging on? Get it together. If I'm a Packers fan, I am writing letters and I am calling that office every day. Why is he still on this team? Why is he still on this team? Why is he still on this team? You're not creating a market for him. You're just creating a deadlock for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't you want to know what picks you're going to have in the draft? Like, what are you doing? There's just this unbelievable pissing contest over nothing. You clearly don't want to be together anymore. Either go see the lawyer and get a divorce, or do something, or suspend him.
Right?
Do something. You've obviously clearly moved on. You're not doing Jordan Love any favors right now. If you want Jordan Love to be the quarterback of this team, then you tell everybody that Jordan Love is the quarterback of this team. Did we not see this with the Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't, and that was because Jimmy got hurt and just happened to work out, right? It's just one of those deals. If he had been healthy after last season, he totally wouldn't be back. But it's mind-numbing to me that they won't move on from that, because it's going to continue until he is retired and gone. People are going to want him here, and it just doesn't work. You're talking about you're talking about a guy that wouldn't do workouts last year, and then you go look at Tom Brady, and he was doing workouts with his new team in 2020 when people were on lockdown, right?
Yeah, and he got in trouble for it.
Right, and they won a Super Bowl that year, so I didn't say it ended up working out, right? Like, I don't think he did anything with burner phones like the Cardinals did, so that's nice.
That's true.
So that's always a good one. But you have to have that I want to win every day, I want to go kick somebody's ass every day mindset to be a San Francisco 49er, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers has that.
I agree. I think right now the team mindset is so cohesive and they're such a unit that to bring someone in like him who's wants it to be about him and he's got his attitude, he's only going to create havoc and I don't see it being a good fit. I don't. Maybe,
and he's going to want all his guys
5
in.
Years ago, maybe a different situation, but today, no, he's not going to be a good person.
Yeah, I like Bryson here too because like it is true, and like what you were saying too, like with the Ravens and Gruden, not Gruden, but Rich Gannon, Tony Saragusa, good player. Shout out to him.
Landed on him.
Like, yeah, did he not land on him? He landed on him and then he punched him in between his ribs, in between his pads. My dad's a Raider fan, and we watched that game. He broke his ribs. Straight broke his ribs, and that wasn't a foul. That wasn't a penalty. It was the Raiders.
It was
right?
nothing.
That's okay. There was nothing.
Totally, it was exactly.
Yep, Bobby Hoyen came in, and then it was all over from there. Number 14, and
he couldn't win big games at Ohio State, so you knew he wasn't going to win them at the NFL level.
No, and it's just one of those things. And like Tom Brady, the tuck rule, the deflate gate, everything, and then. The whole thing is, I think the Niners have tried to stay away from him for a long time, but the whole thing of him not getting drafted, I think you guys heard, did you know Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady were both 49er fans? Yeah. Everybody was saying that today.
I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
That's out of left field. When did that happen?
This is breaking news to me. I was today years old when I learned that. Like,
so when you hear that
also
kind of
breaking
stuff,
news: Tony Gonzalez used to play
today.
basketball. So did Antonio Gates. I don't know if you know that. Chris Hogan played lacrosse. Not sure if you're aware of that. That's one of those other fun facts there. Yep, it's good.
No, but with those kind of thoughts, it's like, so you got people it's like anytime somebody's a Cal quarterback, or a California quarterback, they're like, oh man, the Niners should take a draft pick on. The Niners should try him. Why? Because he's from California.
Right.
Because he could have rooted for the 49ers. So
he's a homer.
Like
people were suggesting we should talk Andrew Luck into coming out of retirement because he went to Stanford.
I did. I saw that.
Times.
Yeah.
Because,
I like that too, because that was, he's a smart quarterback. And I mean, him or Josh Johnson, I think we would have been better with him. Right. I would have liked Matt Fitzpatrick. I thought he was great. No, Fitzpatrick, the quarterback.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. Fitzmagic. I think he's a great quarterback, but he had the stomach issue the year before, and I think that's why he retired and went to the booth. So it's just, Kurt Warner, he would have been a great Niner too, but Niners didn't sign him because we played around with Alex Smith, and it's like sometimes it's like we get quarterbacks or we get players and we don't cut them loose because we want to be right so much, right? I don't know. I don't want this to happen to Trey Lance. And if he needs to go to another team, then the Niners need to let him go, or they need to believe in him and get some reps around him, or put some kind of system in place for him to be successful.
I think the 49ers do believe in Trey Lance. I mean, I that's just
to a point.
To a point, I agree. Because they're saying out loud, it's Brock's teams to lose. They're saying the quiet part out loud now that it's not Trey's team. It is Brock's team. It will be Brock's job to lose. So they are starting to say that out loud, which tells me everything you need to know about where Trey Lance sits in the pecking order. And as long as Brock comes back healthy, that is the way this team's going to progress, which means Trey Lance will eventually be a trade pawn at some point.
And that's really what they're trying to do, right? Why are you going to show everybody your cards? Why are you going to be like, oh, we're putting Trey out there, guys? Or do you want to get something for Trey, or do you want to get nothing for Trey? Because if you say we're going to, move off of him, then they know they can get him cheap. We're done with him, right? So I don't know why they would start coming out and saying that. I
don't think we're going to do that until we put he's going to get to start a couple games at the beginning of the season, I believe. And I think they're hoping he performs well, and I think we're hoping that Purdy comes back and resumes, picks up where he left off, which means that if Trey plays well for a few games, then people are going to say, wow, the kid does have something. He's just a little raw, and maybe we will trade for him and further develop him, because you have the ability to do that, whereas the 49ers aren't going to sit and wait. we're looking to win a Super Bowl, and we're not going to give him the time he needs to make rookie mistakes. We're just not. And that's a fact. We want to win, and we're going to do that whether we have to bring in a aforementioned veteran or we're going to go all in on Purdy.
And that's
Maddie, what do you think? Go ahead, Bryant.
I just really quickly, I think with his surgery and the injury that he has, why don't we redshirt Purdy this whole year? Let his elbow heal up. Let's see what we have in Sam Darnold. Let's see what we have in Trey Lance. If Sam Darnold can beat Trey Lance, okay. If he can't, then we got Trey, and we're rolling with Trey. And, that's what we should be gearing up for. But to tell people that, Purdy's coming back sometime in the middle of the season, so what are we trying to anticipate? That we're going to have a letdown, or Trey's not going to be doing as well? And everybody, I heard him say, we start out really slow. So is that us giving ourselves an excuse to take Trey out and then put Purdy in? And now it's the middle of the season, we're going to start cooking again? I don't think that's the way we should go about it either.
The doctors say that this surgery's done. It's healed in 12 weeks to the maximum level of healing it will ever be. So by the time we get to June, the healing is done. Then it's a matter of play football. So I don't think we redshirt Purdy. I don't think you see that at all. I think that is not going to happen. It's not going to do him any good, and it's not going to help his progression or his healing.
Yeah, I don't think we redshirt him either,
Yeah.
because like I mentioned before, he had said on that radio station that his rehab, everything that he's doing right now, like the range of motion, that determines whether him throwing in June. Maddie, what do you think of Ty's comment?
I could see I kind of see what he's saying there, because also if you look at the Trey Lance, if you decide to trade him, okay, hypothetically, you can do it after June 1st, and the dead money is only $5 million, and you save about 3.8-ish on the cap, right? So also, if they can build up Sam Darnold and turn him into a 4th or a 5th rounder for whatever, right? They're excited about that too. I think that's another thing too. They want to play this. This is part of the comp pick game, right? So, and Shanahan doesn't think he's going to be back till October, so we're going to have to just cut it down the middle there. One guy is like sunshine and rainbows, and the other guy is like it's cloudy and there's dog shit on the ground. Like it's basically it seems like the two.
Why do we have to step in and go through that? I mean, it's cloudy already.
Like that's exactly what it is, right? And you want to clean it up, but it's raining, so you can't really scoop it. Like that's where you're at. So that's the way that to me was the polar opposite, the way Lynch was one day and then Shanahan was the next day. If they decide to trade him, yeah, okay, sure. They're trying to build up value to whatever they can, and they say all the time, "I'll listen on anybody," right? And if they listen on something, like they traded Jeff Wilson last year. Did we think last year they were going to trade Jeff Wilson midseason? Right? No. I wouldn't be shocked if Elijah Mitchell gets traded. You've seen that in a couple of different places. I wouldn't be shocked if that happens, not because I think Elijah Mitchell's done anything wrong or doesn't fit. I think they probably like Jordan Mason. I bet they really like Terrion Davis-Price too. I bet those are guys that kind of redshirt in the system for a little bit and then pop in. They're good. I also wouldn't be shocked if they try to find a home run hitter, Raheem Mostert type in the draft who can hit that outside speed. Maybe they use Danny Gray a little bit more this year in some different slotty formations as well. Ray McLeod showed last year that he can get the ball and take off at any point in time too. They've got dynamic playmakers all over the field, and you have a schematic genius in Shanahan. Who can create plays so that guys can get the ball in space and be successful. So whatever they're doing, no matter what it is, whether it's the quarterback room, the running back room, whatever, they're all about building that player up. And if it just so happens that they get some more value than they were expecting, then great. So I don't expect Purdy to be like that. The only reason I think they'd even think about trading Lance is if they think they could get something back that was worth it. But he's going to have to play and look really good for them to want to trade him. And somebody's going to have to make that offer, right? I don't think they're going to put him out on the market. That's not how it's going to work. He needs to do a Matt Flynn. He needs to have a 6-touchdown game so that somebody wants to be like, we want this guy, right? Whether it's Rand Carthon and and we still have some. That's another place right there. Tennessee's a place to watch because Ryan Tannehill could be a big cap savings, I believe, if Tennessee cuts him. They and don't forget the Instagram comment, right? Like, please send me to Tennessee. I doubt it. I doubt that's exactly what happened. But if that does happen, everybody's gonna be like, see, I told you, I told you.
You'll be the first one to say it.
Yeah, I won't say it like that.
He will.
Laugh. I'll just laugh because, like, of course John Lynch is going to talk to Rand Carthon, right? Like, they just work together. Like, that's how these teams work.
Right.
Like, they make deals with people they know. That's how it happens in every sport. So there's going to be some ridiculous. We've got a long ways to go. The draft is a big mile marker, and everything that everybody's putting out there right now in terms of the 49ers quarterback situation is full of crap. You're already looking at their 3 quarterbacks and then whoever they drafted in the draft to be a quarterback. Those are your 4 quarterbacks.
I completely agree with that. You're on mute.
We lost you, Bryant. We got you. I've done that multiple times in my life.
Yeah, I like to mute it sometimes because if I get somebody in the background or something. But he put his emoji for the Instagram like that or Twitter, and it's like good luck or fingers crossed thing. And he supposedly says that to everything he texts. And I don't follow him that much on Instagram or Twitter to be able to say it, but that's just a little weird. Like you would think, okay, you could just say good luck or whatever,
Right.
Hey, but when so it's like, hey, I'll see you over there, right? It's like, so I don't know. I mean,
don't forget me.
Yeah,
well, they were actually
we're going,
apparently they were actually very close.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not surprised. And I'm sure he is rooting for him to do well because you know what? If he does well, he might have a place to go when they need him, right? Whatever that is. And if there's one thing Trey Lance reminds me so much of Steve McNair that is just absolutely fascinating to me.
Ty, when you come back, I'm going to do that to you.
We're in trouble, Ty. She's a mean host.
Hey, Brian, who's your 49ers Mount Rushmore?
Steve Young, Bryant Young, Jerry Rice, Brady Washington. I'd say he's probably up there. He's probably one of the better kickers for the Niners. But I like Robbie Gould, but he's not my favorite 49er or favorite kicker. So, okay, Steve Young, Bryant Young, Jerry Rice, Frank Gore, and Dwight Clark. Those would be my guys. I like defense too, but I like those guys. Those are my guys. Me and my wife, we bought the letters to Dwight after you guys' show and stuff, and we both read a lot of it. We really like that. And we liked Dwight Clark before then too, but she actually came out and told me, she's like, my next jersey, if you get another jersey, we don't buy jerseys all the time. We got to buy diapers right now, so.
Those aren't cheap, man. I'm sure those are great with inflation. I'm sure those are killer.
Oh, and I got 2 right now, 2 different sizes to buy, so I'm having a lot of fun. But she said she'd like Dwight Clark jersey, so I'd like to try to get her one of those here one day. But those are my guys. Jerry Rice, he's the GOAT. I was watching football when he was around. Really tore me up when he went to the Raiders. But I still got to see him across the bay, and I really thought that was great. And he didn't go to a team that was bad either. He went Tim Brown, Charlie Gardner went there. Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon came out of nowhere. We were like, who's this guy? And then I started looking back, and I found out he was playing with the Chiefs, and I was like, but my dad's like, Gannon the Cannon, and I'm like, what? And he didn't have the biggest arm, but it just made fun watching him. And then Bryant Young, I really like Bryant Young. I got to meet Junior Bryant. Bryant Young had just left when I got to meet Junior Bryant, if you guys remember him in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So Bryant Young, big guy, really big fan of him. He's been the backbone of the team. And then Frank Gore, I had this joke with my dad too for such a long time. He actually came up with it. He's like, Frank Gore, he's seen him first quarter, maybe a little bit of the second quarter, and then you didn't see him for a long time, and you didn't know if he got hurt or what happened. Well, my dad said, he usually limped off the side of the field, and I'm like, I didn't see that. He's like, yeah, he rolled his ankle, and don't worry, he'll have somebody over there. They're either going to be moving it, manipulating it, or something. But just as soon as he gets his ankle hurt, he'll come back in the fourth quarter and he plays like he played. And that's every game I seen with Frank Gore. Was like you'd see him limping off, and then come back in the fourth quarter, and we'd win the game, or he'd come really close to it. Some of the biggest games that I remember is like the Seahawks game with Frank Gore playing against Matt Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander and stuff. And when Alex Smith first won that game, I remember I used to have the newspaper article of him, and the 49ers are holding him up in the air, and I was like, man, we're finally there. This team's they're coming together. But too many years with different offensive coordinators, I didn't think it was right that they got rid of Mike Nolan as fast as they did. They went to Singletary. I like Singletary, but with whatever he did in the locker room, that should have stayed in the locker room. It shouldn't have been publicized. I don't know how stuff like that gets. He should have just been fired, right? We shouldn't know that. That's why, right? The 49ers don't leak except for stuff like that, right? So I don't know. Harbaugh, I really liked him, but I didn't like them saying that they're going to trade him before the season started. I thought that was really silly. And then we went with him the whole season, and you could see it in the team. They didn't seem to have the same energy. So that's my Mount Rushmore.
Awesome. Your thoughts on Kyle Shanahan?
I like Shanahan. I like Kyle. I liked his dad. I know he played here. Well, he coached here with the 49ers with Steve Young. He went to Denver. I think when he went to Denver, that kind of took our little magic away because he went to Denver and got 2 Super Bowls there with John Elway, with a similar quarterback like Steve Young. I like Kyle Shanahan. I've been a fan of him. I didn't know a whole lot about him at first, except his last name. But he was a Texan. He was a Buccaneer. He was a Brown. He was Redskin, Washington Commander. They're always going to be the Redskins to me. I'm sorry. I'll probably be saying that for the next 30 years. But, and I don't think that was such a bad name either, but that's there. But Commanders, wow. I don't know how they picked that one. But I like Kyle Shanahan. I joke
Washington president.
Real quick, I joke. And I work with other people too that are 49er content creators and other stuff. So sometimes, I'll say something, but it's all in love. So, yeah, it's banana hands until he wins the ring. Kyle Shanahan, banana hand. It's a parody thing, but I say that when he messes up, right? It's when he messes up, when he's coaching and he's winning. Hey, he's not banana hands. He's Kyle, right? And not South Park Kyle either. He's Kyle. Everybody likes Kyle, but when he starts making those mistakes, it's like, hey, why didn't you run the ball 3-28? Why didn't you run the ball 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter? Now we have other players coming out and saying it too. So I will call him banana hands until he wins a ring for the Niners. If he goes somewhere else, he didn't get the job done. I don't want an Andy Reid, him going somewhere else and then be successful somewhere else. Andy Reid had Michael Vick. He had Donovan McNabb. I mean, he had quarterbacks. He can't say that he didn't have quarterbacks. They went to the championship 4 times in a row. I feel like we're like the new Eagles. We're like, we get there, but we're not getting it done. So I like Kyle. I don't want to see him get fired. I think if he goes somewhere else, we're going to be in trouble. I don't see us having a replacement at this time or any time coming. And I really, really appreciate him because when we let Harbaugh go, we had John Tomsula. Shout out to him. Great guy. But he wasn't the guy that we should have picked. And then when they went to Chip Kelly's nutritional thing and wanted to play players, they just let him go in Philadelphia. Okay, you bring him over and we have a hockey staff or a training team. There was a lot of just weird stuff that was happening. And then nobody could come here and play with us because we're like in a rebuilding mode. We're not paying anybody players. We're not paying anybody anything. And California has this tax, and we have a state tax. You come here, you're not going to get your whole paycheck. You go to Miami, you go to Texas, you go to Las Vegas, and that's what makes me upset is like you can see free agencies being played out. We can't offer teams money. We can't offer players this much money because other teams are going to say you can make $6 million in, like Jimmy Ward. He went to Texas. He's making $6 million down there. $6 million in Texas is not $6 million in California. I mean, Brock Purdy, and he's in a hotel room, right, with 3 other guys. We have Robbie Gould, who's made, I think Matt said it, $6-something million. He sleeps in a hotel room throughout the year. I mean, you would think that they would buy a house in Modesto, California, or Manteca, or somewhere close that they can travel, on a day. Oh, but you don't want to travel. I get it. You want to live in the Bay Area. Well, the Bay Area is expensive. So why the Niners or the league doesn't have some kind of accommodation for, like you live in this state, you should have like some kind of, or maybe they should do it for the team where the team gets a cutback. Like, hey, you pay them this much money, but the cap's going to be this much less for you. I hope I'm making sense. I'm really passionate about it.
I think you're making sense because there should be some sort of, I don't know, almost like a VAT tax refund where if the team has to pay 30% more taxes, the players pay 30% more because they're playing California versus Texas or something else. That should not be a lure to go play on another team for the same $6 million. So the team should be able to recoup that tax money into their cap so that the player doesn't take the hit the same way. Something like that. Yeah, I get it. Where the 6 million actually equates out to 7.8 because the team's able to recoup the taxes that the person's paying and make it equal.
It's a big mess though because the laws are so different now. Some states and you get charged in the states that you play the games in. So yeah, if you have 8 or 9 or 10 games in California, you have 8, 9, 10 games in California. But if you got 2 games in Florida, then you get 2 games in Florida. There's no income tax there. If you play a game in New York or New Jersey, you're going to get taxed pretty big. Same thing in Massachusetts. Like, it's such a mess. I would hate to be one of these guys' accountants. Like, you're going to be filing like income tax forms in like 15 different states. Like, it just seems like an absolute nightmare and nothing I want to be a part of. But again, these owners are doing this stuff to keep themselves from going crazy. So, but if you look at what the 49ers do, they seem to take advantage of a lot of these exceptions. They get these guys to sign for the bare minimum so that they can get exceptions on how that goes. And they're getting whatever's happening and however they're making this happen, like, because they've got that reputation. That's a great way to fill out that roster so that they've got that depth, because at the end of the day, depth is what wins championships. So that's what they're going to continue to do, and they continue to get smarter with it. And this is the great part about having people in place and not switching them out every 2 years, going from Harbaugh to Tom Sula to Kelly to like the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Buck Shaw did the Andy Reid thing too. He was with the 49ers for a bit. They got sick of him because he couldn't quite win the big one. Then he went to Philadelphia and won a Super Bowl. Fun fact. So the 49ers have done that before. And funny enough, he won the championship with the Eagles, if you can believe that. So I think it was 1960 or 61. So they have a history of that. I don't think anybody's getting rid of Kyle. Like, all these people that want to get rid of Kyle, it's like, really, who are we bringing in?
Yeah.
I'm ready anytime. You tell me. You tell me who you're bringing in.
There's nobody to bring in.
There's nobody. There's nobody. If you want to get better, there's nobody you're bringing in. So stop it.
All right. With that being said, how about we go to the hurry up offense and the 2-minute warning? And Becca, you're up.
Happy Passover to everyone who's starting to celebrate tonight. Happy Easter this weekend to anyone who celebrates Easter. And go Niners. Good Lord, the whole rumor mill is going to keep going, but I don't think any of these crazy quarterbacks are coming our way. Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, none of them, they're not coming. So anyway, the team will make good decisions and it'll be great.
Go ahead, Bryant.
First off, I want to thank all you guys for having me on. I've really enjoyed your show for a long time. I've tried to tell everybody that I know, and I know a lot of people, and I try to spread the word. Not everybody listens, but hey, if you're hearing me now, like and subscribe to this channel. They have a very good show, mature. They listen to people, they listen to each other, they don't cut each other off. There's a lot of shows out there that you can't get one word in, or the panel doesn't seem to be necessarily even agreeing or hearing each other out. And you guys listen to each other, you argue a little bit, but you also, you also get your point out and you hear each other's points. And that's what I like about it too, because again, you can't hear somebody, then how are you going to be able to conversate with them? So I'm really, really happy. This is really a great opportunity for me. I've been on YouTube probably since like 2014. I don't have, a show at the time, but I would go on people's shows like your guys' shows, Rombo. There's other people out there that have nothing but Niners. I used to work at nighttime, so I wouldn't be able to catch shows live, but I could hear them on the replay. So I'd be watching a show at like 3 o'clock in the morning that played like hours ago or 6 hours ago, and it is fun. And I finally got to a point where I'm like, hey, I can see these guys and I can see them live. So it's been fun interacting and commenting on your guys' show.
Go ahead, Maddie.
Thanks.
Mac Jones is not coming either. There's not going to be any Mac Jones. There's not going to be any Lamar Jackson. There's not going to be any Malik Willis. There's not going to be any Aaron Rodgers, and there's not going to be any Tom Brady. Okay, so just stop it. Stop all of it. Steve Young and Joe Montana are not walking through that door. Colin Kaepernick is not coming back. Anybody else? John Brody is not going to come through the door either. Okay. Neither is Steve DeBerg, although he almost played until he was 50 because that was crazy. Like who you've got is who you've got, depending on who they draft. That's it. Stop listening to the other stuff and just keep waiting on the draft. Pay attention to a lot of these guys are going to be drafted because they're probably going to hit some home runs and, or at least one or two with the amount of scratch tickets they're going to have. And these are going to be guys that even if they just draft pivotal role players, they're going to make a difference. And then you're going to have guys that are on the street afterwards. We're a long way to go from opening day and what that opening 53-man roster is going to be. So don't give up hope yet. I think there's a lot more to come for this team.
Stop listening to the national media.
And when you do, take it.
Steve Young is warming up in the parking lot.
Right. Take it with
Right.
a major grain of salt with the national media.
Bryant, thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, make sure you like and subscribe to his YouTube channel. He brings great stuff, and especially on the weekends. I like watching you on Saturdays. Again, thank you for coming on. Go Niners, and we will see you next week for my birthday bash.
And when in doubt, pick 3.
When in doubt, pick 3.
Red on 3.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.